Welcome back to Métropole Grid. My name is Andre. Thanks so much for tuning in. It is June 13th, 2024. It's a Thursday night here in Netrunner world. My experience tells me that Jinteki.net is running really poorly this evening. A portent of what's to come, or a server reset between now and then. We'll find out together, I think. How's everyone doing? It's a nice day in June. It's not that hot out. He already looks pretty sweaty, but that's just the way he is. How's everyone doing? Top shelf transition. Thank you, Lazy. How's it going? Red deck wins today. I guess so. That's like an aggro thing, though, right? That's a Magic the Gathering aggro thing. As of 5 minutes ago, jnet is broke. Daria, how was your trip out to OTG? I know you registered as somebody else's name, sort of, kind of again. What's up with that? It makes reading leaderboards impossible. Is jnet like fully cooked? It was like pretty cooked. I was meant to be recording gameplay for Alphabet Series. I got like one game in and I was like, nah, there's no way that's going to be correct. So we'll see. We'll see if this works or not. We're going to hang out and talk for a second and then we'll try it out. And if it's bad, we'll pivot. We'll become like a different content creator of some sort. We'll be like getting into, I don't know, Marvel Snap or something. Happy late birthday. Thank you, Thanos. Hope your Island God co-op adventure went well. I did some Spirit Island on Tuesday night after we were joined by Yeti. I tried like 3 or 4 of the new spirits. They're really well designed. Like you can tell they're very interesting as much as I'm not too plugged in. Like I don't know. There's still like a bunch of spirits I haven't played, but I really enjoyed the ones I played. So for those who like Spirit Island, Nature Incarnate, okay. Tangent, Spirit Island, Nature Incarnate. The spirits that I tried in no particular order. It's very bad flashbang. Sorry about that. 8 new spirits. They have the Arcana. So you can have like a physical manifestation of them on the islands. The ones that I played 1, 2, 3, apparently the first 4. I played Hard Vigil, Seemed Busted. I really like the Dahan centric spirits, and this one just giving plus like 4 health to every Dahan just kind of felt ridiculous. Mind you, I was just playing on the basic difficulty level, so obviously you're gonna win all those games, but it seemed just really good, but not that interesting. This one was really cool. This one is like an Incarna based one. You're just kind of stomping around the island and just destroying everything in your path. Very powerful. This, like, firing twice, free damage every turn. Yeah, okay. Seemed very good, very easy to play. A nice introduction to how Incarna work. This one I've heard has been pretty interesting and pretty powerful, and it reminded me a bit of the green one from the core set that allowed, like, things not to grow, except it was a lot trickier because you couldn't really move around your Incarna. What I learned is that when you're allowed to add presence, you're actually allowed to instead move your Incarna. I didn't know that was a rule in the game, but apparently when you want to add presence, you can choose not to move your Incarna 0 or 3, which is kind of interesting. But once this thing got powerful, it got really powerful. This was cool. And this one's the one I was the most interested about because it's kind of like fear-based, and it's like the sort of Stranger Things kind of underworld where you just capture enemies and you abduct them to this like external shadow world, and then you just eject them. I want to play this with multiplayer because you can move around people's essences, and that seems really cool. Or presences, not essences. Very nice. This is body. Yeah, breath of darkness down your spine. I thought this was a lot of fun. I'm excited to try out all the alternate versions of the core set ones that come. Holy hell, it's bodies. Hey, Jai. I thought this one was really cool. And like, it worked quickly. There's a lot of rules to read on it. There's actually a very important errata. On the original printing of the board that I have, it says to abduct a piece, move it to the endless dark. When pieces escape, it says move them to a non-ocean land. That's actually lands. That's a typo. And that's a huge difference in the power level of this, where instead of like ejecting them all to one land, you can spread them out, and spread them out you will, considering you're very good at like snarfling up a bunch of single damage. What's it called? The white men with the hats, which is pretty good. Slay the Spire over Marvel Snap, please, and thank you. Hello, Eric. How's it going? Happy Thursday. Issuaq. I thought I would do that a while ago and I forgot to. Hopefully you're doing well. I want to make it very clear that this is the Issu-Wack decklist of the week. Obviously, we're going to start here. There's a lot to talk about Issu-Wack. I'm a bit of an Issu-Wack defeatist, and people are hyped about this. This is the most, if I'm pretty sure, the most liked decklist on NetRunnerDB this year, maybe even for the last couple years. Like, people are loving it. And like, I don't know whether it's Wenjong's really thoughtful like write-up, the fact that he hasn't been playing for long, or the fact that it's just Issu-Wack, an identity that people want to do something. Which I don't get it. It's not an interesting identity. Why do people want this to do something? It's not a cool identity. It's like, were you all super stoked about Harmony Medtech? It's just Harmony Medtech again. I'm picking a fight that people are not going to be happy with me. Again, the deck is cool. Wenjong is cool. I don't know why you want to like Issu-Wack. Anyways, it is a cool identity. Prove it. Prove it. I'm too young to know Harmony Medtech. Imagine an identity that just says the game is suddenly over faster than you thought it would be. Right? Anyways, sorry about me. Hey, Lucille, jumping in to say thanks for all the shoutouts to the new UKNR Discord server. So many people joined over the course of just after the last stream. I'm pretty sure that's a Null Signal Games article, but if you got to the UK Discord, that's amazing. I'm glad that that's helping. We're obviously not in the UK, but the fact that that scene has a space now, not that they didn't have UK Slack, as much as I know that has a different vibe to it. That's really cool. Hey, Pudding. Twitch was very adamant about the fact that you're not currently streaming. I definitely am, Twitch. Hey, Spark. I was taking 5 seconds per click or so all games earlier. That's how it felt for me. It took a really long time to get a basic action in. Amazing trip, amazing people, understandably tired. I smurf everywhere trying to become the next NR meme lord. I don't know if smurfing makes you a meme lord. It just makes things annoying. I don't know. Daria, you don't have to listen to me, but like, I look at the standings and be like, oh, I didn't know Ian was there. Why did Ian spell his name wrong? And then it's not Ian. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. It has no effect. It has no impact on me. Harmony is fine. Yeah, but the thing is, like, Harmony is, I agree, Harmony is fine. Is Harmony interesting? Is Harmony exciting? No. So why? Why? Heal streaming coming lazy. It's about time that we got a good heal stream in. We actually used to do those consistently. It's like every 6 months we would do like an NPE stream where we just played the worst stuff that like we didn't want to play. Like we'd be playing Warroid Tracker, 74 card op, like those sort of things. We're coming back. Classic underdog identity. I want the underdog identities to do something. This is the problem too, right? Like I think this conversation came up before. This one I think I feel worse about because I know I dunked on people about that. It's like I'm not gonna pull it up. Is winning with a blank identity cool or not? And this is not a blank identity. It's far from it. But is winning with a blank identity something we should be striving for? Like, I don't, sounds like PD. Threat 4 doesn't exist, the ID. It's really funny because Threat 4, like, there is Threat 4 cards in the deck, but like, it happens with this. It also happens technically with like some of the Ag Infusion decks. Is like Threat 4 is just unfortunately really difficult. That being said, if the runner is on 6 points, you probably want your eyes to be slightly better. So it's very, very funny how bad Threat 4 is. The payoff isn't cool. The requirement to achieve the payoff is cool. Benjamin, how's it going? I don't know. I think we define cool in different ways. Because it's not like a bluff deck. Like, I think people want Issu-Wack to be like, oh, what is it on the remote server? Is it a trap? Is it a thing? And it's just like, oh, it's slightly one more point. Harmony was a load of fun. Mushin Harmony was such a trope. Yeah. That's exactly the sort of Netrunner, though, that like I don't care about. Which is unfortunate. How's it going, Diogen? The sort of like, is this the lethal trap that kills you or not? That being said, I do like trap-based identities sometimes, but I like it more when it's a combination of traps, not just like, I'm going to keep advancing the Beal until you know, flatline to it, because it feels like we're barely interacting with the parts of Netrunner that I think are fascinating. The idea that we have an entire game with all these systems that we're just playing cockroach poker, like, not my favorite take, but I understand that I'm in the minority there. You kind of think Harmony is cool as a person who never played with the game. A game that ends early sounds like a fun thing to deck around. It's weird though. It's like, I find like some of my worst memories, if we're going to call that, about Netrunner is when the game is just suddenly over and you didn't see it, you didn't expect it, and there was no interesting decisions to made around it. It's like when the never advanced card in the remote server has a vulnerability on it, and then they just do seamless advance, score 3-pointer. Oh, I win. It's just like, oh. It's like somebody drives a car through your house. It's just like, oh. Well, that is way worse, actually. Obviously, that's way worse. But you know what I mean? It's just like something is just taken away from you suddenly. You're like, oh, I thought we were playing a game. I don't know. This one I don't like either. I mean, who's trying to look at me on tournaments? I would be interested to look at your standings. Daria? How do you disrespect OTG King of Swiss, Donji Roche? SMH. Slice and Time Grinder Night. Issu-Wack like Harmony is fun because it's using Jinteki card pool. It's not. It's not. This is not using the Jinteki card pool in any way that any other Jinteki identity doesn't. Like, this is using the other card pool. Like, I would think Issu-Wack's unplayable without Seamless. Let alone it's a punitive deck, right? I don't know. All the best cards in this deck are not Jinteki cards. Well, besides the agendas, they're messed up. But, like, that's good. What I think makes Issu-Wack interesting and fun is that it's been the puzzle that people have been trying to crack, and it feels to me like someone has cracked it. Sort of. Yeah, kind of. We descended to the Issu-Wack stream where Andre's a doomer. I want to be very clear. Wenjong's the best. And we got to see the replays. I'll come back to a second one to catch up on chat, because I was talking about this earlier and I got a lot of feedback saying things like, hey, the Issu-Wack ability is not a nothing ability. What my point was is that people don't know what an Issu-Wack deck does. And I've seen this exact circumstance before. We had a lovely person who came out to their first ever Netrunner tournament, not very dissimilar to Wenjong, who came up to US. He's been playing for a while, playing at the ACE Continentals. But we had a lovely guy named Sven who came out to the Montreal Canadian Nationals last year, and it was his first ever tournament, and he was, of course, the only player playing Issu-Wack there. And he was not a very experienced player, and he made top cut. And the way that he made top cut is very much playing a punitive Issu-Wack list. And I'd argue that punitive and Issu-Wack does technically work together because you're sooner on threat 3. Mind you, I don't think that deck had Daniela in it. I'm not sure if it had Data Loop in it. It might have. It's been a minute. We have a couple of those games on the channel. You can watch it. But Sven just flew into the top cut. And I'm not saying he didn't play well. I'm not saying he's not deserved. It's just like a really good combination of when your opponent doesn't know what you're doing, it's actually very good to play a deck that punishes mistakes when people don't see the mistakes coming. And I'll show you, because one of the coolest things that Wenjong did is recorded a bunch of replays, attached a bunch of the replays from the tournament. I'm pretty sure the tournament organizers are asking you to save replays, but some of these games are non-games, where the opponent just runs on like turn 4, touches the first agenda and dies. Because they're not playing around punitive, because you're playing Issu-Wack and nobody knows what an Issu-Wack deck does. And that's a good thing to have. Now, mind you, this deck still won in Swiss, and specifically the Swiss game against Augustus was on stream. It's a very interesting game. I think Wenjong did great to play to his outs, but those outs were very narrow, but he did catch up on it. Like he caught there. But like you'll see, we'll open a couple of these games. There, I would argue that these are very much specifically people don't know what Issu-Wack does and dies to the first possibility of punitive. Again, That is not to dismiss Wenjong's play. I think in the first game against Essa, the opponent steals 6 points and Wenjong runs it back. Like, he does a good job playing the deck. But I just want to be very clear, one of the best things about this deck, which is different if you played Restoring Humanity, Punitive Counter-Strike deck, which is a deck more people are expecting. When you play RH against me, I'm expecting to be punitive. You don't play around punitive when you play into Issu-Wack, and it's the perfect crime. So that is the big strength of the Issu-Wack deck, is that nobody knows what you're doing. It's not the Issu-Wack ability, which is still good, but the majority of games, not majority, a fair bit of the games were won off the fact that nobody knows what this ID is doing. And I think that's going to change, which is very interesting. Now, please dunk on me. Dunk on the man who's unhappy about Issu-Wack. I have something NPE cooked. I read your NPE, like, I'm pretty sure you had an NPE PD write-up. It was just PD. Anyways, it's not blank. It does something in the deck and something real cool and good. Yeah, sometimes. I think half of the games in the Swiss cut were won because of punitive just being a surprise. The other maybe half were won because of the ID ability, which is cool. That's better than you'd expect it to be, but it's not as great. This is a weird definition of blank. I hope I didn't say blank. I hope I didn't say blank. You want to play a normal deck where you assume I have 0 complaints? Play next week's deck of the week. I don't want to. Next week's deck of the week is abysmal. It's not fun. It's really, really not fun. Counterpoint to trap ID Saraswati. Yeah, this does what Saraswati wants to do. I guess that's true. I just got my tea thing and I'm just gonna drink all of it. Data Loop, the most famous of Jinteki cards. Avatar, how's it going? Thank you for supporting my my effort. I'd rather have a card driven through my house than lose a game to vulnerability audit. Jai, monkey's paw and all that. I agree. Vulnerability audit is anti-fun technology. I wish vulnerability audit had all this text, but you had to install a face up. That's all I want. If you want to have a cool 4-3, just let me know that's what's happening. Would it be a playable card? Maybe should it be 0 influence? I don't know. But losing to when someone just pulls the rug out of you is the antithesis of the excitement of Netrunner, where it's just like, oh, the game was over. Sorry, you couldn't see this card coming because nobody played it. I don't know. It's like the open versus closed deck list discussion. It's like, it's weird how I'm on both sides of the coin. I don't like losing to this. It just doesn't feel good. Classic car got driven through my house reaction. Oh, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Give us the 2 corp IDs you like the best. That would be perspective. I can't speak since I love PE. The 2 corp IDs I like the best. Oh, damn. Hold on. So we're on Necklace Week's Decklist the week is looking like it'll probably be the 74 card mutually shared destruction combo list that Seb K won OTG with, which is an archetype we've seen before. I think Seb also brought to Worlds and he didn't have the finish he was looking for. Mind you, Seb K is a very, very creative deck builder. We've seen this archetype around for a while. I think I last played against like Jai playing it on a stream and wanted to concede very quickly. But it is very, very anti-fun for a lot of people. You're fighting tooth and nail for the deck of week spot? Oh, well, I didn't know that. Excuse me. I've been playing this deck since it was published, telling people what it is, and performance has been better than only does well when people don't know what it's doing. I don't think it only does well when people don't know what it's doing. But I just want to say, and you'll see in the replays, a non-insignificant amount of the success of this deck is people not knowing what it's doing. I think this archetype can win if people don't know what they're doing. If people know what you're doing and know what they're doing. I think it can. I think Punitive Jinteki is a very powerful ability. We saw it like in non-Issu-Wack make top 6 teams of Worlds last year. Of course, it's a really powerful identity. I just think if Wenjong showed up with RH versus Issu-Wack, there's going to be a harder uphill fight, and it's not exactly because of the ability. It's because people know to play around Punitive. That's my thesis. That's my thesis. I'm not saying that this deck would be worse or better in Restoring Humanity. I think the idea is really cool. I just want to, we'll see the replays. They're posted there, right? Like the fire propaganda movement, screw your warriors and overseers. Yeah, but there's like Pinel's not even perfect, but there's like border controls in the deck. There's 3 of them. It's really hard. It's neck and neck with any PED. Isn't that just a PD deck with a write-up, though? Not again, that's just this PE deck. It's just PD. Am I meant to read the write-up for this to make sense? How? What's going on? I feel like I've started on the wrong foot today, excuse me. I think this is fair, but it's basically impossible for me not to root for an off-meta deck. I think it's totally fair to root for an off-meta deck. It's just... I don't know. I don't know exactly if this is the off meta I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for Wenjong, though, that's for sure. Hey, Gyro, how's it going? Sokka played his lad on stream versus Issu-Wack. He knew the deck, but lost to not respecting 2x data loop remote. Yeah, I watched that stream. Mind you, Sokka's stream playing that cupulation deck is really wild. Sokka's runner list is very, very strange, and is the first deck that made me think cupulation's kind of cool, and of course it's in a Shaper deck. I think Sokka misplayed it, and I think that's going to happen with this deck a lot. For what it's worth, Sokka did not win. I'm pretty sure Wenjong conceded, because Wenjong was locked, and Sokka almost messed it up with double data loop, that's for sure. And I think that's the thing, is like most decks will lose to double data loop. Like, that's a hard thing to beat unless you're playing Arasana, you have Click's card draw, let alone Hush. Like, that's true. And that doesn't mean that you need to play it in Issuaq, right? Like, is it better to play an RH with 44 cards and an uglier agenda suite, potentially? Maybe. I'm just saying, like, it's all within context. This is more of a shell, and then the Issuaq versus the punitive is the surprise to it. But I think the shell is sound. I'm just not sure if this is the first order optimal version of it. It could be. It honestly could be. I'm just interested to see how this goes. Why am I fighting everyone? I'm going to fight anyone in chat today. That's how it goes. So many CDM wins from runners just hanging themselves. Oh man, I shouldn't have read that out loud. Confirmed blank. Hi, Kyle. You need to read the write-up. I'll read the write-up. Low-key, a lot of success at ACC was also people not expecting punitive. 100%. A lot of my successes. Oh, cool, Augustus. You kind of need to surprise win factor when corps are so behind. Hi, stream. Hey, Augie. I mean, just spam a bunch of Bs in the write-up for you to get odds of winning Decklist of the Week. Airblade's moment. Airblade, yeah, it is an Airblade's moment. I'm so hyped for this deck, and I think the data loop and Daniela forced runs because the 2-agenda win con is more valuable from the ID than it seems at face value. It's a really clever list. Yes, I agree. I think this list gets to a spot where you have to run. And then when you have to run, it can be a problem for you. That's the idea. That's what Issu-Wack is doing. For sure, that's what Issu-Wack is doing. Is that to me an interesting identity ability? No. I would actually say it's still one of the least interesting Jinteki identity abilities. Is it valuable? Yeah. There's a lot of board states where it's incredibly valuable. You win off of 2 agendas. Can you do something similar by playing a 2-1 agenda? Maybe. By playing Gene Splicer? Maybe. All of those come with very big deck building constrictions, especially the 2-1s, because then punitive 6-point doesn't actually work. So there's a lot of decks that can do something similar like this, and there's a chance that Issu-Wack is like the best home for this archetype. Yeah, totally. But a lot of people just died punitive. I don't know where. And it's funny, it's like this list, someone should bring this list to a tournament and play no punitive and just play 3 seamless. Because the deck is actually kind of hamstrung by the fact that its alternate win conditions inconsistent, and then 2 seamless is relatively inconsistent as well. So if you focus on one of them somehow, I think you actually have a stronger deck too. I noticed all the margins are messed up in data loop. I hate it. Welcome to the red sand cycle. A lot of cards were just misprinted in very strange ways. Whether it was just like straight up typos or bad indentation. Like, this is data loop. It has an indentation here. Should it? No. It shouldn't. Red Sands just had horrible quality control. Another one is Standoff. Standoff was printed in the font size of flavor text. That's not right. Did they ever reprint this and fix it? No, but I'm not sure if they actually ever reprinted the cycle. The Red Sand cycle was just such an absolute mess in terms of quality control from FFG. It is like a low point of the game to me, just because I like it when it feels like there was intention behind the cards and what was the product that was sold to people for money. But it just feels like they sent the wrong PDF or something, like something disastrous happened. Because out of every data pack, there was like 1 or 2 like very obvious mistakes. So we'll see. Sokka put himself in a situation where he loses to Fuji in the remote, but it was to send a message, so he ended up okay and wins from there because his deck has no teeth once the runner has 4 points. Yeah, once the runner has 4 points, it's going to be a problem for you for sure. But yeah, Sokka probably didn't play it perfectly. Sokka usually plays it perfectly, but that helps. But yeah, there was some board states in which he was cooked. He was just like, I'm not playing around this, the chance of it existing. If I remember the game, it was a week ago I saw it. I wish I was as civil as this when I was in a fighty mood. Issu-Wack, more like Issu-Wack. Hey, Gold Lava, how's it going? I think it's super interesting, but not on a 5-3 plan. What is Gyro? It's significantly more interesting than the oops, all your runs are into big spiky outer ice Ag Infusion. I agree, but I will say, when you are evenly matched into Ag Infusion, and that is something we haven't seen in a while, because you usually see one of the extremes when you're playing Ag Infusion. Either you're playing a criminal and you can't like Sisyphus yourself through an Anansi twice, so the game is just messed up, or you're playing Turbine and the most expensive ice they have is 3 credits. But classically, when Ag Infusion was good and it wasn't like Loki combo or something terrible, the Ag Infusion games were really interesting. Like, right? Like, even when we were playing Vench and Keeling, I have a fantastic stream where Izzy joined and we were playing Vench and Keeling combo decks. And those decks were like chess matches. Like, every click mattered. You're trying to set it up. You're always slightly behind, it felt like. And like, not that I like Keeling, not that anyone likes Keeling, That was way more interesting, where your ID ability was relevant on every click in an interesting way. The runner had to respect it. It was like about baiting out pintle threadings and getting ice out of the way and then getting to ice res so you can play run events. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff with Ag Infusion. Unfortunately, right now, it's not the case. It's like one of the two extremes. The ice is way too good, or you have Turbine, which, like, of course, we need to have Turbine if Ag Infusion exists. So, like, I agree. It's probably way less interesting than this, arguably. Spin is for cowards, cut for punitive. I feel like you kind of need spin because sometimes you end up putting points in archives, and then if the runner like gets set up or gets money, you have to get them out of there. But I could see maybe cutting spin doctors. I'm pretty sure Wenjong was playing version of this on stream that, or on the Sokka stream. He's not playing spin doctor, but playing bird barbecue or genotyping or something. The dream is turn 1 mitosis Corden, turn 2 seamless shipment from business to score Von Aldit, and a 3-2 for the immediate win. Oh my god, you could do it. You're right. I also think Corden is underplayed right now. Like, nobody's playing Imp. Corden is definitely underplayed. I'm on your side, Andre. Punitive in general feels bad to win with. That's Sven. How's it going, Sven? Who was the punitive Issuaq player at CanNats. Maybe it doesn't feel good to play it. Like, this is actually a really big thing when it comes to does it feel good to play? Is if you watch the replays, which we'll open in a second, Wenjong is constantly apologizing to his opponents. And I think that's one of 3 things. Firstly, as somebody who's recently been introduced to Canada, maybe he's acclimatizing very, very quickly. I think there's a big chance that that's the thing. Secondly, he feels like ripping a win out of somebody with punitive feels bad when they don't see it coming and they don't play around it. I could see that. But third, and I think this is the most accurate, Wenjong is suffering from an imposter syndrome, where when he plays against somebody who he's known and seen their name on leaderboards and has watched their decks and copied their decks and he wins against them, he thinks his opponent deserves the win. And so he's apologizing for that fact. That one takes a lot more to unpack. I'm hoping it's more the first one. But Wenjong, you deserve your wins. You won fair and square in the game we both agreed to. That's fantastic. But like Wenjong is constantly apologizing to his opponents, which is really, really funny. Do the cursed single punitive? Yeah, you can do like 1 punitive and 1 like, I guess maybe you could do 1 monkey tutor card, but I feel like that's probably a bit messed up. Standoff is printed with normal text, but you're reading it from further away because of standoff. What's the chance that standoff is written like that just to put you in the shoes of the person in front of the thing? To be like, you feel really small now, don't you? Whoa, lo, lo, lo. Hey, Zarga. I'm coming to a thing recently where I'm hesitating to put hedge fund sure gamble to decks. How often would you consider not running those cards? More than it's ever been in the history of Netrunner, but specifically, unless you're playing an archetype where that makes sense, I would almost always play hedge funds and sure gambles, particularly too if you are a newer player, which I'm not sure if you are or not. You should reliably play those sort of cards that firstly force you into habits where you try and keep your credits around 5. So if you top deck a sure gamble or hedge fund's not unplayable, that's a good spot to be in, but also they're just like very smooth cards. I think there's a bunch of decks for the last like 6 to 12 months that like have good reasons not to play hedge fund and sure gambles. For corporations, it's usually not that many lists unless they're playing a lot of assets or have a weird win condition, but generally a lot of asset decks because most of their decks have like 15 ice and you need to res 15 ice somehow, so that's pretty tricky. But as a runner deck, there's a couple more decks that are considering whether or not to run sure gamble or creative or any of the other stuff. But I would say, especially if you're a new player, I think 10 out of 10 times you should play sure gamble hedge fund. It's not always wrong to cut hedge gamble, but you need clear thesis. Yes, it's you need to be very confident that that's not better than most cards in your deck, and it usually is, unless you're building such a weird fine synergy deck where that's not the case. In the punitive spectrum, this is probably pretty tame. When you see a data loop, Danielle, you have to assume punitive. You do. But you want to talk about replays? Let's check some replays out. I love people attaching replays. Mind you, I know Augustus, you attached replays to one of your last decks you uploaded. I watched all of them. I played the Ag for the first time using Sokka's list, and it's actually really cool how you get ice up when where you use it really strategic. It's really cool. I think it's really compelling to think about, but not to score 2-5-3s. Yeah. I think this is capturing minds. Is it capturing hearts? Seems like. Can you play hearts and minds in this? Yes. As a certified spin cutter, I can guarantee -2 spin plus puny is correct. Healing can exist in the same format as warm reception. That would be face vomiting. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? Keeling is a sick prison card that should be burned. Drago got banned for R+ Carms. I'm not defending Keeling. I don't want Keeling. Hey, Dan, I think there have been few Lou Imp Friday chip decks that have wrecked my sports deck. Oh, that's interesting. I wondered because sports is doing well that people are going to just put Imp into like whatever they have. Because I haven't seen any Imp decks. I haven't seen any Lou decks. I saw like 1.5 players trying to play their virus deck without Knob Curry and it wasn't going their way. But I don't think that archetype is like totally dead in the water. Every Continental season needs a new player to get in and enters. Yeah, for sure. I'm a new player. Spartacus. Jai, go to bed. Oh no, doesn't that mean they're cursed to have their deck betray them at it? Oh man. Okay. You just woke up. People are sending you back to sleep. It's 10 in the morning. Go back to bed. All right, let's look at some replays. So to go over this before Andre gets too salty about this endeavor, and I don't know why I'm so salty. I feel like I have to defend a point that I'm trying to prove, and I want to tell you I'm the happiest for Wenjong, right? Okay, weird look. But this list is trying to score out an early agenda. It's also throwing agendas into archives. If you don't know how bacterial programming works, it's pretty cursed. Because if the runner steals bacterial programming, you can look at the top 7 and you can add more agendas into archives. So you can put a Fuji in there, which does 2 damage, and suddenly they've sold 6 points in a turn. So hopefully you had in hand, and mind you, this deck actually doesn't have a lot of money. Like, this is not a YDL deck. You can beat this deck by just having more money than them, which should not be impossible. And then they landed Punitive Counterstrike, either 2 of them for 3 damage a pop, which is pretty iffy against things like Anarchs that are running Steelskin Scarring or Stone Chip Chart Room decks. So 6 points will kill pretty consistently. Now, let's talk about it. I'm here for the solid. Piotr, how's it going? Let's look at some of the replays here. I'm going to skip the first replay. I think this first replay, is this against Cord Gang? I think this is like a really hard fought one where, oh, it's against Hams. Hams goes to 6 points off archives in the first couple turns. Hector Est is Wenjong, very nice in chat. This deck has a Cloud Eater in it. I totally forgot about that. I think you see it rezzed once. It doesn't have the money to res Cloud Eater, I think, in Punitive. And so we're off to the races. I think we throw out points very early, and Essa gets to 6 points from an archives run, which I'd argue for Hams is a bit risky, and then Hector Est claws it back. I think there was some maybe tunneling on the runner side where the agendas are and where they should be. I think there was like 2 finalities in this deck and you just want to send a finality. But if you read the board state, it seems like making a single run on HQ should be it. And Hectorist claws it back. This is a longer game, but this proves not only does Issuaq Adaptics of text matter because you have to score 2 agendas to win, but also you're able to claw it back for a weird, difficult matchup where Hams can easily have a lot of just pressure archives and get some points. I think this is a sort of matchup where you're not expecting to run archives and steal 6 points and have it be a problem for you because you're playing against Issuaq. You're not sure what to expect. And I think if Hams knew what this matchup was, there's a chance that he would never run archives at all and just let the points get up in there and then mill Issuaq out. As soon as, you know, he did technically survive the punitive because it never landed because I don't think Hectorist either drew it or had the money. Then the game became about contesting the remote server and just was unable to steal another agenda. So interesting replay, definitely worth watching. Doesn't prove my point though, so I'm going to continue on. Against Hoshiko, against Ari. I think one of these Hoshiko ones is like the prime candidate of what I'm talking about. This is Lost Tubman. I'm pretty sure that this is a Muntle Boast player, which is a testing team from the West Coast of America. They're very good players. And I think because this is an anagram, this is probably Man of the Moon or Santa or one of the Muntle Boast players. Not sure who. I don't know if we don't need to confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that this is a Muntle Boast player. It's Santa, lol. Playing, you know, good stuff. Hoshiko, the deck to beat in the format. And this shows you exactly the sort of like matchups that this sort of, I don't know what you're doing, Issuaq can do. Look how many turns this goes on for. So Issuaq has a good hand here. I could definitely see yourself keeping that. Hoshiko has a good enough hand. You can mulligan that. Banhar is a bit tricky, mind you. You don't want to Banhar into an Anansi and die. A Saison would be a problem too. Has some breakers. That's Steel Skin. You could not keep that if you didn't want to. We're starting. Hector is going to keep this hand. And looks like Lost Tubman kept that hand too. Top decking the Charlotte's fantastic. There's a chance you let Centrals open. You just jam Charlotte, you advance Charlotte, you put a Thimble Rig in front of it. I know Wenjong loves to do Charlotte Lacosta and then spend 3 credits to get the free advancement on Charlotte. As soon as you advance the Charlotte, it really tells what it is, which makes it weaker to pinhole or face checks. But I like to get the first Charlotte manually advance usually and then later commit to Lacosta. Because if you want your money in the early game, if you're rezzing for 3 just to get the free advancement, you're spending a click and 3 credits instead of a click and 1 credit. As much as if it survives, you snowball forward. I'm still not 100% sure what you should be jamming Lacosta turn 1 or not, because it seems a bit expensive. At least we have hedge fund to recover. So that's the play, Lacosta Charlotte, and we're going to go from there. So this is actually not that short of a game. Just this turn, in theory, you could lose to punitive. Like, it's almost that simple. It's not exactly that simple, but like, we're just going to set up. A lot of these matchups is where you don't know what they're doing. The Hoshiko thing to do is basically just get all your breakers down because eventually you know you're going to break every single card in the Jinteki card pool for like 2 to 3 credits. And that's what Lost Tubman does. Just draws, installs a Banhar for some pressure. What happens here is what you think is going to happen here. This is going to fire. We draw into our Bacterial. We're going to advance the Charlotte. You don't have to do that, but that's a nice way to ensure value. Ice up HQ and then maybe the hedge fund. You could Hansei there too, throw out the Bacterial, but we don't have the punitive in hand. We don't have a huge money differential, so you want to probably keep that. Does the new ganked mid-run access rule? No, Blurby. Archives didn't change at all. So you have to touch all the cards in archives. The rule for remote servers, if things were installed, you don't have to access cards that were installed during the access step. It's optional. Yeah, so it's only for roots. All right, so Tubman's just going to drop, like literally saying, you're just coasting. I'm just going to try and drop and get all my breakers down. It's, you know, Hoshiko turn 2. We have 2 breakers down. We have the Buzzsaw waiting the wings, and we have a Banhar. Besides economy and pressure, Hoshiko's just going to Hoshiko. This is very similar, sort of like kind of Cold War you saw if you watched the finals, where Council was playing Restoring Humanity Punitive against Odal, I'm pretty sure, who was also playing like good stuff Hoshiko, and you just saw it. The question was, how quickly can you get to game point where I actually have to run? Because until that, I'm just going to be drawing up and getting economy and setting up my breakers. So Charlotte's firing, turn after turn. Hanse's going to throw out him a virus, which in this matchup is not very relevant. A lot of these Hoshiko decks are not playing viruses anymore. Some of the decks are running 2 Fermenter. I like Fermenter, and then we're off from here. So we're just going to keep trucking along. We're going to touch a couple cards. We can get a bit of information, but like basically just the most, you know, straightforward, greedy Hoshiko stuff. Charlotte's firing. The Punitive was not touched. The card that was touched here was the Hanse review, so Punitive remains a secret. Hectorus has a huge credit advantage because Charlotte is not being contested. This is 4 credits a turn. That's absurd. This is how you get the credit advantage. If Charlotte doesn't stick, the deck only has hedge funds and Hanses, but Charlotte usually sticks. Just drawn up, we can put a Sisenton on R&D, can throw out the Enigma. You haven't seen a Buzzsaw just yet. We haven't discarded a Buzzsaw, so Buzzsaw is kind of relevant because forcing Hoshiko to get all the breakers down actually does matter. We'll see what we discard here. We threw out the Enigma. Okay. It's only a matter of time between the Enigmas being broken for 1 credit, but from there you're good. And again, I'm just going to press right forward, and then you just see there's Fermenters. We're just setting up, and now Hectorist makes a play. Installs Bacterial, advances, puts the 3rd ice. Now, this server is a bit sus. It's Tattoo Bowl into Thimblerig. The Thimblerig on the innermost is really good because obviously you don't beat that with Banhar. In theory, if you put the Anansi on the outermost and Banhar connects with it, you're forced to break it. Echelon breaking a Banhar on only 2 strength is very, very expensive, so they'll spend more than you will spend rezzing, so it's probably worth it. But putting the Tattoo Bowl on the outside is just going to be more economy for Hectorus. You could definitely go for the Anansi there because you're expecting a run. Now, the question is, what is installed on the remote server in single advanced? Because that has to be better, or at least more interesting than the Charlotte, who was just ejected from the server. And this is it. It's turn 5. We're going to make the first run. I think that matters. Lost Tubman's going to install the Buzzsaw, has 16 credits, all 3 breakers, can install the Turbine. Exactly what you expect to do with Hoshiko and make a single run. And you'll notice here, the game is now suddenly over. Technically, Hectorus could have rezzed none of this ice. In theory, you should always res some of this ice to make things a bit more interesting. Funny enough, the Anansi is now broken for 3 credits, such as Hoshiko. But on turn 5, Hoshiko installed Turbine, Buzzsaw, Echelon, Cleaver, and Banhar. This is the worst case scenario if you're playing the Ag Infusion deck, but luckily it doesn't matter because Lost Tubman has no idea that this is a punitive deck and just dies. This is exactly what I mean. Even on last clicks, they can just draw all the cards of like this ID can just win games based off of not knowing what you're playing around. And this is what I mean. It's like, this is not the only thing that happened today. It's just punitive. Oh, and Lost Tubman's like, oh, GG's, it's over, right? So is this game going to be different when the opponent knows about punitive? Yes. Will it be more interesting? Yes. Is that both an edge on both sides of players where you understand, I know what you know, so I know what you have to respect. You can't run right now, so I'm going to jam the Bacterial 100%. But I just want to, this is what I mean, is that there's a non-insignificant amount of games that are won because your opponent doesn't know what you're doing. It's like playing punitive in HB. It'll just kill people. And that doesn't mean this deck is not good. I don't know why I'm proving this point. I'm spiraling. Please let me have an elegant escape from this argument that is not pleasing anyone. Andre getting his voice speed up to rival professional auctioneer in his replay, and I'm here for it. How's it going, Brennan? Anyways, I still think this deck is good. And I still think there's IDs and there's matchups where the text matters and it forces people into weird lines. I think this is a cool deck. All I'm saying is that there's a non-insignificant amount of games, you can check the replays, in which the games are what I would call non-games. And playing punitive in an ID that people are not expecting punitive is a non-game generator. And non-games are good for the winner of the non-game. Now tell you how you really feel that's meta. I don't know what the meta is. The meta is like 2 Hoshikos at OTG or something. Like I don't know what the meta is. I think the meta is Shaper's good, and that scares me. Patreon sub goal for Andre to wear an auction hat. Okay, now Maddie is just saying I'm going so fast. Yeah, I just don't want to dwell on this because I've already been dwelling in a real pit of ugliness. Anyways, you tend not to like games where the winning line is not playing Netrunner. I don't think the game there, the winning line is not playing Netrunner. The winning line for our runner there was understand you're on punitive and only start contesting later. Because they were at the point where they broke all the ice in the game for 3 credits max. And breaking the ice 3 credits max means that Wenjong's gonna have to do a lot of work. You're gonna have to build a Daniela server with data wards and play around Steelskin scarrings and do all that sort of stuff. So non-games are the only way only way to win as a corp. There is a chance that that is true. I think the deck that won OTG, I'm a bit pessimistic about it because I do think it is somewhat a non-game generator. Like it's trying basically not to play Netrunner. It's weird what that means, but like we're seeing a lot of games or a lot of decks that are there that are not trying to play Netrunner in certain ways. I think that's a loaded sentence, that's for sure. For what it's worth, we saw a lot of sports metal at Boston NPC, and I think those games were actually really exciting, especially with the Hoshikos that were kind of dealt to at least keep up to some extent. Obviously, they don't have a winning matchup there, but at least that deck is still scoring stuff in remote servers. I don't know. Maybe this is the advertisement for open decklist tournaments, but maybe it's not. Because I'm pretty sure if I was in Muntelbost's position there, I would be kind of upset how that game went. I don't think the Muntelbost played anything wrong there. I think they played probably nearly every turn perfectly. Maybe you could argue that if that was a Fuji, that's a bit ugly for you. You take 2 damage. It wasn't the end of the world. But I don't think our opponent made any mistakes and they still lost the game. And at the end of the day, that's life, right? Like that is just how life is sometimes. You can play everything perfectly and you can still lose. I think it's good that there's decks out there that players that are meant to be equalizer decks to some extent. And this is not to disparage Wenjong. I want to make it very clear. Wenjong played to his outs. He played to his heart out in a lot of the matchups. You can watch the replays. Like he played a lot of those really well. He saw the situation, he pushed him. Everything he did was correct. But unfortunately, they were not playing the same game. I don't know what to say about that. Like, it's very strange. It's fine. The tiebreaker scheme to ban Moss still not completed, so Venti will be kept in check. Yeah, and then we're back to Hoshiko, right? Like, I don't know. Anyways, let's play the deck. It's a cool deck. Like, I think it's powerful even if opponents know what you're doing. It's just I do think there's a lot of non-games, and hopefully we're not going to have a non-game. I don't know why I'm fighting this fight so hard. I feel like I talked myself into a corner where I said enough times that Issu-Wack doesn't do anything. I'm not correct about that, obviously, but then I feel like I have to explain why I said that, and now it's an ugly spot. Getting over it, Netrunner edition. No, it's true. Like, sometimes you can do everything right and still lose. That's totally fine. Wenjong, anyways, I won. Yeah, and then he apologizes in chat about it. Like, after we close the tab, he's apologizing to his opponent. And I do think that he's just nice and doesn't think he deserves it. And he definitely does deserve it. I want to be that very clear. I'm with you on 75% of your take today. What's the 25%? That I don't like the bees that much? Why not go over the cut plays where it's open deck list? Let's go over one cut play, because the one cut play is actually fascinating. And that is the one against, specifically... Okay, so there's 2 cut plays. I think one's against Chord Gang and one against Augustus. So the Essa one is one I thought I was watching, where this is really interesting, because Essa finds... there's a situation in which 6 points are stolen, and then Essa feels like... Who's playing this? It's Chord Gang, right? I think she needs to win that turn. It's okay to change your mind. No, I'm fine changing my mind. Okay, so this is Chord Gang, if I'm not mistaken. And so this matchup is really interesting. Mind you, the matchup against Hams on round 1 or round 2, whatever it was, it's pretty interesting. Man, the people are so nice. Like, the fact that this chat log is, for better or worse, like, people have to understand the chat logs are saved, so it's not like people are saying shitty stuff, but, like, you see everyone's really, really pleasant. And so Issu-Wack is going to start off. This hand is not horrible. We're going to ice up HQ, we're going to ice up R&D. Some of the most spiky ice, can we res any of this? No, but the problem is since Sai-Santan exists, so, like, good luck face checking on 6 credits, and we're going to credit up. My nightmare resurfaced. Augustus, if you want to stick around for your nightmare, I think it's worth talking about your nightmare, because your nightmare is unfortunately a non-game. But I think you didn't need to do the thing you did. But I think the thing you did was a very low chance % failure. So the game goes on. Essa setting up. We got Nuka. We're losing our raindrops because we installed a Ghost Tongue. Very good. The hand has 2 steel skins, so you're pretty safe to face check into anything. She can just set up. Sabotage here is really interesting. Sabotage 2 off the top of the deck. Or sorry, 1 from HQ, 1 from the deck. So we're already immediately throwing out the bacterial programming, which I think is pretty nice. Now, admittedly here, you're kind of hoping you look at 7 and find a punitive, because right now, Essa is only on 4 hand size, so you need a bit of this to land for that to be good. But very understanding not throwing 2 cards from hand. These are important cards for the deck, so I see why Wenjong wants to keep them. Just drawing up, playing the steel skin. We're going to discard a card here. We're going to play Strike Fund for the 3 credits or the 4 credits, and we're back. This hand is not good. I'm going to draw. This hand is not good. So now the line you have is to throw 6 points into archives and look at 14 with bacterial programming and hope it works. We have the punitive hand. In theory here, if you're really brave, you can either install Daniela on archives, which is not very good because there's an additional cost. You can refuse to steal it, or you can just throw out an agenda here. Looks like we're going to put a Lucosa on the table. That's fine. I don't think that Headmoth, she can really trash this thing, so we'll see if it gets run or not. At least I'll waste a click, but it's fine. This hand feels terrible. You can recover with this hand relatively well, because it only takes one bad run on archives with the single punitive in hand. Like, if Headmoth steals at 6 points, the game is over. The problem is, though, Hectorus doesn't have money. And, like, this deck doesn't have YDL money. If you can't punitive before the run, it's very hard for you to punitive after the run, unless you, like, need some amount of hedge funds. The contrast between Jinteki game chat and the front page should be destroyed. The front page of Jinteki.net should be destroyed. I don't know why it is allowed to be existed. Well, it can't. Anyways, we're drawing up this deck. I think in the write-up, talking about Ashen Epilogue being really cool because you can just like full send it all the time with Essa. I haven't played enough of it, which is pretty wild. Seems interesting. Checking this, it's at La Costa. You're not trashing that for 4, I don't think. We're just moshing in, getting deeper, throwing out whatever we don't need. Running hot for tempo. Love running hot. Very interesting to see what Hectorus is going to do here. We know this is not a spin doctor, which is a really good check from Headmoss to know that we can sabotage on this turn. And so we're going to sabotage 2 from HQ. And this is the sort of plays that like we're setting up. This is really good, right? I can't click on archives. I can. It's just very laggy. So we're throwing out 2 bacterial programming. So we're hoping that if Headmoss, if she runs this, we're going to steal 6 points and we'll punitive on 6. She's currently on 3 hand size, so like that punitive will land. The problem is there's a bit of credit differential here. So we'll see if she checks archives. We'll see, again, she knows this is a punitive list. This is open deck lists. So we're going to misclick. Okay, we move. Oh, that's unfortunate. Might have thrown out the wrong cards there. And we're checking archives. And this is it. This is potentially it. We're now running archives, and there's 6 points in here. Headmoth should know. 100% knows it's a punitive list. The problem is the deck only has 2 punitives. We've only gone through 10 cards. The chance of having a punitive is relatively low. We know there's a non-spin doctor, and we know 3 of these cards were chosen. That's a really important thing we're tracking when you're playing ESA. How many of the cards were random cards? Because random cards are the ones that largely have a chance of being agendas. The known cards give you information, but the random cards are what you're looking for if you're trying to, steal and win the game. Hectorus is thinking, and now we're going to fire 2 bacterial programmings. Headmoth knows that if there's a single punitive and then a single economy play, or not even economy play and 2 punitives, you can get into the tank and start doing math. So Headmoth can do one of 2 things here. She can either try and protect herself, and she can do that by getting hand size up to 6. That's technically within the realm of possibility. No, it's not within the realm of possibility, because if you even like find a marrow, I think your hand size is too low. So you probably have to win this turn. Because if you're not winning this turn, the game is over. And this only happened because she ran archives. And I'm not saying running archives is wrong. I think this is the exact same sort of matchup we saw Diogen was playing against Sven at Cannats. It's on the YouTube channel, in which you playing ESA and you're so used to checking archives. And in this matchup, you probably should not check archives unless you're ready to deal with a punitive 6. Because it's very likely that if you're going to find a punitive 6, it's going to be a punitive 6 set up by the corporation, or you're going to find nothing. And this is the scenario that you find yourself in. I think this is unlikely with only 2 punitives in the deck, but like we're still stealing 6 points and looking at 14 cards of the deck. Now, 14 is technically not accurate because there's a chance that you'll put cards back on top of R&D and look at another 7. You don't have to do that, but you're looking up to 14 cards if you want to. Jinteki and Flood name a more iconic combo. I'm not saying check archives is wrong, but you probably should not check archives. No, because it could be right. It could be right. If she has the right hand, if she thinks she can win in a turn, if she has a mad dash, there's ways to make this make sense. I would have to run the probability of this run is very, very not good. My idea is it's probably a bit more risky than you need to be in this matchup, specifically when the corporation is on 0 points and 6 credits. Like, I think that's my biggest takeaway, that from a lot of Jinteki matchups, especially if you think it's a trap matchup, which again, Cord Gang here has full information, is that you don't have to do anything quickly, because this deck is clearly on this board state installing a La Costa naked in server 1. Like, they don't have a play to make, so you don't have to make a play either. I also want to be very respectful. Like, I think Cord Gang is a fantastic player. She's a treat to watch. She plays really well. Like, this is just a hard situation to be in, and we're going to tune into the next game where the same sort of situation fires again. Corp really needs 2 econ cards. Yeah, it's like not impossible for the corporation to whiff here fully, because you still have to find at least a punitive and enough money. Like, it's still like not fully like it's nuanced. Let's just say it's nuanced. Adding 7 to hand, that's very telling. That means that we did not find a punitive. We're just trying to draw all the cards. We basically are saying when we draw 7 that we need the second bacterial draw 7 to find something. And what Hectorist is looking for here is money and another punitive. Honestly, with a single punitive, there's a chance that he cannot flatline this turn. He actually needs the second bacterial to find something here. That's as interesting as it is. You need to find another card here. So we're looking at another 7. This 7, mathing a bit, finds a second punitive and a hedge fund. The second punitive is actually not potentially necessary, but maybe necessary because you just need to land one of the punitives. So technically drawing the second punitive is an economy card that's like 5 credits or something like that. Because you can do one punitive and then Card Gang has to boost into it and then you just do the second punitive. That actually is technically an econ card, but on that next 7, found the punitive in the hedge fund. Very importantly, 5 cards went back on R&D, so you know there's no way that you're winning off R&D. Headmoth's only line here is to win off running HQ, assuming out of the 14 cards looked at least one in the top 7, which all 7 were drawn, were an agenda. So your only line here is probably get more cards with running hot and then run HQ. Chestushka doesn't work. Because of course we have 13 cards in hand, we can just throw out the worst cards. But your line here is get a couple more clicks with running hot and just send it HQ, because there's a big chance one of those 7 cards that were ripped into hand, one of them is an agenda, and you win on any agenda possible here. On 6 credits, there's actually not that much ice Hectorist can res. There's a chance it's an end the run ice. That's a problem. You're just gonna hope it's not an end the run ice because you can't break end the runs here. You can maybe install Begamot. You could do maybe running hot, Begamot, run HQ, and hope that this is a Tattoo Bola. The problem is the Tattoo Bola, you still only have 1 run on you. That's probably still worth playing around, because if it's like a Sai Santan, you might only have 1 run on you, but you just need to get the last 3 points this turn. You can still lose as the corporation on this, because it comes down to money. If it's an ETR, they don't have money anyways, that's true. Unless it's a Tattoo Bola, which maybe you bounce off that, because it might just come down to money, that's true. Is there a situation where Headmoss could running hot then go for econ? That's also a possibility. You could running hot and go for econ. You know, the most amount of money Hectorist can probably get is up to 14 credits, or actually 15 credits, I think. Well, you could do like Hansei punitive, so that's plus 10, so you could get to 16 credits. It's hard to beat 16 credits, but that's one of the other options. If your hand has economy, you could do running hot and then just either click for credits, which is not very good, or try and draw into economy. So you could do like running hot, steal skin scarring for free, and try to play economy. I don't know what the deck list is here, but we've drawn no sure gambles. We've drawn 3 moshings, raindrops, 1 strike fund. So there's still probably a lot of money in 30 cards, but they're both of them. Pray for a steel skin hit. It's 6 damage. Steel skin has no implication on this turn, so you can just play the steel skins. So it's possible to lose from here. So very interesting. Playing running hot is a start. 4 cards in hand for sure. 3 on HQ, 4 on top, so you know you're not winning on R&D here. Nuka, I think she's trying to draw for economy here. I think that's fair. If she knows what her deck is, of course she does, whether she can get to economy there. Drawing again, no economy here, and then just sending it R&D. I don't like the R&D run as much as I like the HQ run, because the 4 cards on top of R&D are totally known by Issu-Wack. That being said, if you see an agenda, maybe you put that down, right? Like there's 4 on top of R&D, we're going to see 4 cards, so maybe you'll see the agenda. The question is whether the agenda is safer in HQ or R&D. I think if you're expecting to play against, because you know the matchup, knowing the deck is on 2 finalities, I think if you see an agenda in that deck, in that hand size with, in bacterial programming, you should add it to HQ, because you're probably playing around 2 finality and you know that, so you should not play into finality. I could see myself messing it up here, but if there was an agenda, you would not put it back on the top 4, I don't think. I think this feels much better, and there's a chance that Hectorist would mess that up and put an agenda back on top. There's definitely not a possibility, but I think here you probably just want to send it HQ. I think you have slightly higher shot. You also have a line of like cupulation running HQ and trying to steal a punitive and hope that's it. That's maybe slightly better, but it's still really, really hard. Running hot Steelskin Cup, probably the best shot. Yeah, I think that's maybe a shot. And if you can run HQ twice with cupulation, like maybe like you steal anything on the first one, so you have just less cards in HQ. I think those are all possible lines. The finality is a chance, but it kind of hinges on Hectorist messing up. We look at 4, not it. Trashing Rashida, might as well trash something on your way out. You're down to 1 hand size. That is the game. We know the top of the deck. So that happens. I think both players played that well. I think Hectorist pulled to his outs, which is like, I'm just going to feed 6 points and hope for it. He did have to get lucky enough to draw punitive and hedge fund. You can do the math where they're looking at 14. You have a chance to draw economy. I feel like you didn't draw enough economy on that. I think you're expecting to draw another hedge fund and Hansei. If you drew into another hedge fund or Hansei, he doesn't need the second punitive. Here, he technically doesn't even need the second punitive. He can just do hedge fund punitive. He can go from there. But playing the outs. If we just credit their runner wins, I think there's a chance, I haven't run the numbers, but there's a big chance the second punitive makes it difficult. But if the runner there just clicks for credits, that you could maybe survive that. I'd have to do the math. If I was in that seat, I would do the math. On this stream, I want to show one more replay. I'm not going to do the math. But the point is that there was multiple outs there. One of the outs was drawn to economy. One of the outs technically was click for credits. That one's a bit tricky. You have to run the math a bit more. And then the third one is try to get accesses to win the game on the spot. I think all three were relevant. I don't think the finality is maybe a bit of the harder line sometimes. I also want to be very clear, like I'm a bit uncomfortable right now because I just opened a deck list and I'm critiquing the play on both sides of the player. Again, with all due respect, both these players are fantastic players. I'm not in the top of the American Continental's top cut. Like these players are fantastic. But we are now with hindsight in the quiet of a low stakes environment critiquing with all perfect information. So I want to make that very clear. I feel strange maybe to open up other people's replays and say like, I don't know if that's the right play. So hopefully we're doing that respectfully enough. If you don't think we're doing that respectfully enough, please give me feedback so we can keep that in mind. I want to keep that as respectful as possible. I worry about that. Corp is a bit unlikely to only see one hedge. I think they're definitely unlikely to see one hedge. That was the only economy operation we drew all game. So there's 3 hedge, 3 Hansei in the list. So I do think you're more likely to see 14 cards and see more than one economy piece. So it's a bit hard. The Marrow install there was 1 card short. Yeah, it's hard because it's like Marrow, but first install the Marrow, you have to take another core damage. So if you can get the 6 hand size, right? That's another way to beat this matchup, is like just get the 6 hand size. But at that point, you're not playing the Essa deck, which is hard because you want to play the Essa deck. Running hot click for 3 is the most money a runner could have, which still loses to hedge double punitive, I believe. Yes, but I would play around, I wouldn't play into double punitive. Like if I only lose to exactly econ card double punitive, I think I would take that line because the deck only has 2 punitives. That being said, once they put 4 cards on top of R&D, they might have found what they wanted to. It's not like they're going to draw more cards. Technically, they could have drawn all those cards and mandatory drew into another card, but I think you play into that usually. Do you think there could be a fulfilling Netrunner game with a single impactful decision being made? What do you mean? Click for 3 puts runner at 15, and the best the corp can do with a hedge puny is 2 trace 7s, but that would be knowledge with the corp as yes. I would not play into them having both punitives. So if I was in the runner shoe, I would probably not respect double punitive because it's the least likely line. Excuse me, hedge double punitive is weaker than the average corp hand of 2 econ cards punitive. Yes, I think you need to play around 2 econ cards punitive. And I don't know if you can beat that by just clicking for credits. So I'm not sure. Sorry if I snorked into the microphone really loud there. Okay, now this is the one that Augustus can chime in on because this is like a 3-turn game. Very funny. We talked about this matchup. These 2 players played at one of the last online tournaments. I believe it was the Man in the Moons tournament. And I think Wenjong could have flatlined Augustus easily. But unfortunately, Wenjong did not pre-res a Rashida that was in another server. And so it got bounced when the agenda was stolen. And you just needed that Rashida to draw into punitive and have money to play punitive. So the fact that he didn't pre-res his Rashida, which was, I would say, strictly correct on that board state because it was the only thing that could have got bounced, and why bounce a Rashida on last click, he would have won the game. So this is the rematch I wanted to see. Now at that point, Augustus, I don't think knew was a punitive deck that was in Swiss rounds. And so now he knows it's a punitive deck. This is open deck list, so we'll see how this does. I consider running hot 3 creds, which beats 2 hedge, but not hedge Hansei. Very interesting turn. It's a very interesting turn. Punitive math has always been something I've struggled to internalize. I'm not sad to see it rotating. I almost always visualize punitive math by physically moving my credits around on my board. I will take 5 minutes to go into the tank and math it out because it is tricky. Corp needs runner credits +1, link -1. Is that what it comes down to, Kyle? Because I still haven't like actualized that. Okay, so check this out. This is a much better hand. Augustus, mind you, is playing 65 card World Tree Arsana, an archetype I really like. Easier to play on jnet for sure, but a very powerful deck. I don't think that Wenjong respects the World Tree as much as he might have to. Like, I do think you actually want to ice up everything. I think the bigger problem is, like, look at this ice. This ice is way too expensive. I don't think this deck should be playing Cloud Eater because it can barely res a Cloud Eater and threaten punitive. I think just having a cheap, annoying ice is better for this list. But you generally want to ice up everything so that Arsan at least has to start taking risks to get the World Tree. We'll see if he respects it or not. So opening end's fine. We're going to ice up HQ, we're going to ice up R&D, and we're going to hedge fund. I don't know if you need to put a Cloud Eater on HQ. You're not worried about any pressure. This deck could be on burner. I'm not sure the deck list. Every player played slightly different cards from the tiebreakers, but this is a very expensive start. Icing up R&D makes sense. That's where Arsan is going to get you, but you don't have to do this. Oh, you need to cost the op plus the trace. It starts. Yeah, I just know because it's pay 3 up 5. You're already up 1. You're up 2 unless they have link. Then you're up 1. All right, telework start, daily cast start, creative commission, just economy. All right, so we have a bacterial. So are we going to score this bacterial programming out? Are we going to do install advanced, next turn advanced seamless? No, it doesn't do Issu-Wack. We're going to keep drawing. We have Saisentan for the remote server. We're just going to keep playing money. Could you, you don't need Hansei there. Whatever. We're off. Getting credits. World tree's coming down, running archives. This is what I mean. If you ice up everything, then there's risks. You have to consider face checking into a Cloud Eater or a Saisentan or a Nancy. So getting an ice on archives currently is our weak server. And this is going to trade the telework into, I don't know, something else. Nuka. That makes a lot of sense. Draw 3. So I think my priority here is ice up archives unless we can push out the game. But let's just go on. We're going to put a send a message, install advance. And we're going to Hansei review and we're going to throw at the bacterial. This is exactly the sort of board state RH puts you in that you play around. Most people will not check a face down card on 17 credits. Now, only one card in hand is incredibly risky. Also, Hectorus knows, and this is a really cool thing, is that of course Augustus is going to run archives. He wants to get rid of his Nuka. He's going to run straight into the bacterial programming, and that bacterial programming is going to give you 7 cards. Now here you're desperately hoping those 7 cards do 2 things. Firstly, finds another 3-point agenda. Hopefully the Fuji's the best case to knock cards out of hand because this deck is on stone chip. So like getting a flat line on 6 card hands is actually kind of difficult. So you want to do damage. And then with this, like you also need to find a punitive. So like we are not set up to do this. There is actually a not insignificant chance that this bacterial programming is going to be stolen and you're going to look at 7 and you're not going to find anything that you need. Worst case scenario, best case scenario, you give them 3 more points and that's it. But you need a lot to line up for this to be good. The question is, if you're in Augustus's position, knowing what this deck wants to do you respect the archives run with 1 card in hand? Now, of course, there's something on the table. We don't know what this is. This, to me, looks like probably Charlotte. Either that or what's it called, an NGO front, which is one of the deck, but this looks like a Charlotte. So I would imagine that you probably are taking very little risks running archives here. So we're going to drop with Nuka, we're going to install the simulchip and we're going to run. I'm assuming we're trading the simulchip into something else, probably the console. And so successful run trigger happens first, simulchip becomes a lily pad. That's nice. This is also clickless card draw. It's another way to not die to stuff. And then we find the bacteria programming. So now this should have been seen coming, but everything lines up so perfectly for Wenjong here. So we look at 7. We need to find another 3-pointer. We need to find punitive. If we don't find a punitive, the another 3-pointer is useless unless it's another bacterial, and then you hope. So need a minute here. We look at 7. We find a Fuji and a punitive. And then we put back 4 on top of the deck. That is the perfect draw here. I don't know what the numbers are, but the chance of running archives and finding a 3-pointer into exactly the Fuji, which has to hit the stone chip into the punitive, it's incredible. It's incredible. With 1 click left here, because we spent time taking cards off Nuka and installing to get our stuff to happen, the Fuji has to be stolen. We keep the stone chip in hand. This is so hard here because Augustus can most get up to 5 hand. He can install the SMC and then crack it on the corporation's turn. That will get him to 4 cards in hand. He definitely can beat on the money. So he now needs to figure out how to win on this turn. Stone chip is 1 card to draw 2. So he's on 5. Self-modifying card code is 1 to draw 1. He's on 4. So he cannot be punitive. He also just lost, well, he lost to Fazarum. That's an interesting card to have access to because it means he can face check safely. He doesn't have it. So he's now in the exact same situation we found in the last game, which is shit. I ran archives. I probably shouldn't have. Admittedly, I think the chance of running archives being a fatal punish is very low. How do I win this turn? And Augustus, I think, runs HQ here. It's 17 credits, so any ice can be rezzed. We have an SMC, so we're going to get any breaker in our deck, and we can afford it, most of them, I'm pretty sure. But the funny thing is there's a send a message on the table. And this looks like a Charlotte. The winning line is just run Saisentan and steal the send a message. I wouldn't have made that run. Augustus doesn't make that run because this does not look like an agenda. Because this play pattern is very strange. This play pattern doesn't even line up exactly with Issu-Wack because if you seamless advance this next turn, you don't get Issu-Wack trigger, which is still fine. I don't think you need to get the Issu-Wack trigger on your first trigger. You can set up Issu-Wack on your second trigger. Technically, now we have seamless, so you can score the send a message and get Issu-Wack, which is pretty funny. But Augustus has to find the line of where to run that's the most likely to win. Strange to be in this side of things is totally correct. And now we're going to run somewhere. We're running HQ. In theory, rezzing and not rezzing here is actually kind of interesting. I'm not sure if Augustus wants to go an SMC for a Peach Champ. I don't think you can afford to do that. If that's the case, you can res Cloud Eater. It doesn't exactly matter. It gets cards out of hand, but I don't think you want to spend 10 credits on this because you can't. So you have a chance here of getting Peach Champ. Here, if you can get a cupulation where the deck is not on, that is a chance of doing something, but we're just installing the SMC, to crack it to get an SMC, to draw a card from Lilypad, to draw another card with SMC. So the most we can get is 5 cards in hand, sees a seamless launch in hand, and the game's over. That's interesting. That's wild. Wenjong set it up. got lucky that everything lined up. The win was still on the table, and Augustus could have got through the Saisentan, either hoped it was not lethal or SMC'd into an Ika, and I think he basically just has enough credits. I would have probably ran HQ here. You know, running R&D for a single doesn't make any sense because the top 4 were ordered. If there's an agenda, do you add into HQ? I'm not sure. Maybe that's your best chance. So maybe you do run this, but this just looks like a Charlotte, and it's not a Charlotte. 15% an acceptable risk. Well played. Yeah, it's an acceptable risk. I think running archives there was not wrong, but you get the full lethal punishment for it, which is just punitive. And then sorry in chat, I think. See, GG, I'm sorry. Like, it just happens when people die to punitive on turn 4. You're like, reflexes to apologize. And I don't know what that says. It's so wild. And all good from Augustus. Glad Wenjong can get the run back from that, mind you, but turn 4 flatline is running archives just seems to never be the play, which, like, maybe you just roll that die on the 15%. Wild. It's wild. This is the sort of matchup where, like, Issu-Wack's text doesn't exactly matter, and I've been cherry picking it. There's a lot of replays there where it does matter. I'm worried about playing this right now in jnet because jnet's not running well. We'll give it a shot. My main takeaway from these replays is that punitive fork decks are extremely good if you have a superpower of drawing a custom hand. Wenjong drew so hot. He drew so hot. And I, again, don't want to disparage Wenjong because Wenjong played to his outs. He took some very risky lines that maybe I wouldn't. But that is a thing that maybe this can inspire you as a newer player going to tournaments. And again, we've seen this before. If you have a deck that can win on surprise and has some very potentially high variance plays, you should play that deck. Your chance of doing well in an event on a high variance, high payout deck is generally a better chance of paying off than if you play, like, I'm going to try and figure out how to play Arasana or Good Stuff Hoshiko. Yeah. If you refuse to run archives, your entire engine turns off, you might as well have lost anyways. Sort of. I think there's a chance that Augustus could have ran another central server with a Physarum in hand, because with the Physarum in hand, there's no bad punishment. The thing is, like, archives is obviously the cheapest and freest run. I just think if you run the numbers, the chance of dying on that archives run are very, very low. So, yeah. It's hard, obviously. You have to face check into this ice, and admittedly, if Hectorus, like, reses a Cloud Eater for 10 or an Anansi for 8, like, punitive is somewhat off the table. Like, it's sometimes a hard thing to marry expensive ice with face checks to punitive. This is why PD is good. No need to apologize. Good and honest. I've apologized in PE matchups where you just, like, get the Managar Manoetic as soon as possible and you do see, like, first click Luminal score for turn 1 or whatever. We did all the math on our age and ag, and the solution was just to draw better SMH. Very funny. Let's give this deck a shot, though. Because, again, I want to be very clear. All the things said. Knowing the cards in the deck list can still win. Even if the opponent doesn't run archives at any point, there's a lot you can do. Hey, Declan, this being the go-to core play pattern in Standard and Start is pretty unfortunate, I think. It's not the go-to play pattern in Standard. Punitive is exceptionally rare. I think there's a big chance that this is the only punitive list at that tournament. I know at an NPC, Erica was playing a punitive RH, and she had stuff to say in the comments the last time this deck came up, saying, like, actually the Ag Confusion shell, or sorry, the Issuaq shell makes a lot of sense. But I don't think it's a go-to court play pattern. I know in startup, punitive is really, really common. And that makes sense because there's, like, almost no way to play around punitive in startup because of the rotation of the card pool, unfortunately. But it's actually very strange. It's very odd in Standard to see punitive. It's not very common. Which is, again, why people are dying to it. Not that Wenjong is not setting setups up. 50% of the time it works every time. That's why you convince yourself, Augustus, when you walk away from the ACC. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Let's give this a shot. My sinuses are still slightly messed up. And I don't know if you can tell my voice. Mind you, APAC Continental starts in about 12 hours from now. Sorry, 24 hours from now. It's starting really, really soon. We'll be doing some casting on the early half of it. I think like the early third of it, because we're going to be starting tomorrow night and Saturday night. But APAC is exciting. I don't know if you're playing all or watching. I don't know what everyone's plans are, but it looks like it's going to be fun. Spoilers, I won't be on punitive for APAC. Oh, you're playing APAC. I was a once off alignment of forces that made puny good in ACC. Might as well. Hey, Gyro. We're going to be playing that. Yeah, this is the Arasana, I think, Spree deck. Thanks, you too. Was wondering how Augie lost that game. In theory, the Airblades and Stone Ships destroyed the Issuaq. Unluck? Yeah, it was a very unlucky archives run. There was very low chances of working out, but the punishment was exactly there from the top rope. I do think that that's going to be a hard matchup. Like, once you get Airblades down, you can... Yeah. Yeah, the words of someone about to play punitive? I don't know what I said. So this hand is Data Loop, which is good. We know this Arasana is on, like, Trick Shot, Botulus. that sort of engine with Poison Vial, if I'm not mistaken. We played against like Iroh a couple times. I don't love this hand because it doesn't have a play, but also has like Tattoo Bolo, which is good into Arsana. It has Data Loop for the remote server, the one of Anoetic. I know Wenjong's worked on this deck since. I'll keep it, but like we have no economy. Choose violence today. It's the decklist of the week. We make no choices. Oh, that's a play. All right, so the question is, do we leave the top of R&D open? I think with Punitive in hand, we can afford to do that. So new remote server, Rashida. Okay, I'm clicking on cards and you see the delay. Like, it's not as bad as it was this afternoon, but it's not great. I'm just gonna click for credit. Oh, it's pretty bad, actually. Psyop people on stream, I would never. I think I've done that once before. Say I'm gonna play a different deck and then I play a different deck at a tournament. I've only done that once. Did Gyro keep? Gyro kept. Tattoo's economy just got swing. Not only is it economy, it like dunks on Arsana, like slap vandaling this and botching that. I love it. Augie did not have Cup. Yeah, Cup Danielle is really good. I've like started to like Cup, but it's only expressly in Shaper. So there's a chance, there's actually a non-zero chance here that Gyro loses the game. If Gyro steals 6 points, including hitting a Bacteria on the first, which means you can put a Bacteria on second, like this is a game-losing play. It's low odds, but it is potentially a game-losing play. Shit. Oh my god, action. This is now really risky. Luckily with the nuke, you can bounce up here, but stealing the early Fuji, like we actually had, that has a huge impact on the game because we can never punitive for 6. So if this was a sentry, you're cooked. If this is a Sai Santan, you probably lose. Oh no, I guess you wouldn't commit to Sai Santan. If it's Sai Santan, yeah, I wish. I put Banhar in my Ari and they played all Jinteki curse stuff. Yeah. Hey Peregrine, actually caught the start of stream. Welcome. So now that the 3 points were stolen on turn 1, we're gonna have a problem. It's up to Gyro to really disrespect this and like not have 3 cards in hand for some reason. So like Gyro installs and breaks the Tattoo Bola and then goes for something there. Mind you, if this was a Data Loop, we couldn't afford it. Gonna say it now, this is the year APAC takes the constants back. Get off your lawn, you hear me? I think APAC can do it. We were only on 6 credits, so there's not that many punishments here. Sai Santan would win the game. And we're on 3 Sai Santan. It's a slap vandal, cool. That's losing a card from hand. That's nice for us. But we're gonna lose the Rashida, which for free feels bad. We need the Rashida, because now we don't have money. So now Gyro can either play money or, oh no, we're gonna make some money here. Taking Boston to the cleaners. Are you going to Boston, Jai? Oh, because I'm taking APAC to Boston. I get it. Judge deck check. All right. So this is a problem. Unless we have double punitive. If we double punitive, we could maybe win. We don't. This is really bad for us. Because we can't punitive 6. This can happen with punitive decks. For sure. Draw for double punitive. Ian, you think? It's a 1 in 41. How lucky are you feeling? Hey, Bink Bonkle. Congratulations on your top Swiss place at OTG, Ian. You did great. 2 of 41? No, there's only 2 in the deck. We have 1 in hand. It's 1 in 41. Terrence, what's up? All right, well, we have to ice up archives, our R&D, because we can lose. We don't value punitive Arsana because we want to set up a double punitive. It's a Data Loop, which is pretty good. We don't really want to push the punitive Fuji. This deck is on like 17 burners somehow. Boto is annoying. Anansi is annoying. Like, I don't know what to do here. 1 in 41 plus 1 in 40? Oh, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. Like, nothing's going to keep out. I think we're just not going to make a play here. Maybe we should have mulliganed. I don't know. Rashida was good. Yeah, 2 because of the Spin Doctor. Yeah, for sure. It's 1 in 41 and 1 in 40. Yeah. All right, so now Gyro has a big window because now running archives, we can't feed 6 points. And that means the sort of plays that like win the game very suddenly don't win the game. I don't know whether we should play around that a bit harder or not. 9 credits. We can res maybe one ice. Winning play, claim opponent got lucky and leave without conceding. Yeah, am I above that or not? No, I'm pretty cool with that. No, not do that. You know I won't shuffle my Rashida back for no reason. You want to undo turn? Undo click, okay. Amaku Arisana, let's go. Call a judge for opponent drew too well. All right. I'm not expecting Amakua. We have one Mavirus, I think. We can res not all of this ice. Tattoo Bola does get beat by Amakua, but we have an Enunciate in the wings. Excuse me. 2 Dirty Laundries are out. I don't think this deck has a lot of money. We'll see how bad it is for us. Still doing better than the Oilers. Are they not winning? I'm a Canadian who doesn't watch hockey, but my family were immigrants into Edmonton, so we are Oilers fans more than we are Habs fans. Our fatal misplay was getting trick shotted. What a card. It is quite the card. It is a lot of text on a single card, and all parts of it are good, it turns out. Man, it's wild. It's such a wild card. Canadian who doesn't watch hockey? Not at all. Maybe I'm in the fighting mood tonight, and that's like very obvious, but I would fight, like, that's my problem with hockey. What the hell's going on with hockey? Who watches hockey here? I can't believe in the middle of a hockey match, you can get so upset at someone on the other team that you're allowed to pull that person in, remove your gloves, and get in a fist fight. Like, you're legally allowed to do an assault, and then the refs will watch you, the crowd goes wild, and then you get a timeout. Like, imagine being in a circumstance where you're so fired up about the sport you're playing, you're allowed to assault someone, and that's not an issue. It's like kind of encouraged. Like, what is going on? Oh, I'm not happy with how the game is going. I'm going to punch someone in the head, and they're like, that's a sport. Like, what the heck? Okay, Anakam's going to be a problem for us. Boxing and MMA, yeah, but you consent to that. Like, that is the sport. Like, people study how to fight each other and punch them in the head. Like, that's fine if you consent to it. I just can't believe, oh, the proper behavior here is to assault someone, and it's just meat damage. Oh, man, it's so bad. It's too impolite for Andre's good man. But it's like, I get it. People get fired up, but how is like being able to assault someone like structurally part of the game? To be like, oh, you got upset. Don't worry. You can do a fight with the person. Like, you get thrown into jail for that. So we're just going to agree to Charlotte until we like overtake. Data loop server's pretty good. This Arsana might not be on Hush. I think we do have to like legally ice up archives. Now our Tattoo Bull is a bit stranded, but that's okay. I think only 50% of the time they're mad about the game. I think the other 50% of the time they just want to fight. Yeah, because strategically fighting someone is good because then they're injured. Like, it's ridiculous. The masses love a little vicarious fighting. I don't get how that's not a crime. How is it not a crime to assault a stranger? Like, why is that part of the game? Like, imagine you're playing, like, and I don't like American football that much. I don't like soccer that much. I'm not very sports pilled, but imagine you just got in a fist fight in a soccer game. You leave the league for a bit. They send you away to think about what you've done. In hockey, we clap and then you take a 3-minute breather. Like, what the hell? It's absurd. There's the weird way that once fighting becomes part of culture, it kind of becomes a thing you can do tactically. Oh, 100%. But like fouling people in basketball, like you do that intentionally. The closest this is like big nerd points for sure. But like I used to do trivia. It's something called Reach for the Top in Canada. It was like this trivia circuit. Alex Trebek kind of founded it or something. I'm not 100% sure. But in high school, you go and do trivia with a team against other schools. And we were really good. My sisters are very good at trivia. We were really good. And there was this one team. Sorry, game's happening. There was this one team that we're playing against that was unbeatable. Mind you, I was like in 9th grade. I was a freshman, and they were very, very good. They were the only team consistently we would lose to because there's one player specifically on the opposing team, and she was incredible. She would got into the zone and just like a machine, just fact after fact, she knew everything. And this is the beginning of it being scummy. Our coach, bless our coach, such an interesting guy, a very smart guy. That's a good purge, I guess. He realized like we had to do a hockey foul. He's like, you're not going to win against her, probably. So what you have to do is you have to break her focus. And so we had one guy on our team who, whenever we saw that she was locked in, he would just buzz in and say something silly, because that's what he wanted to do anyways in his like natural environment. He'd come in and be like, cheese. And then the crowd would laugh and it would just like zonk her focus and she would be knocked off for a game for a couple questions and we would catch up. We won regionals. The only time we won against that team was the furthest you could go for like the junior reach for the top. We won regionals. It was fantastic. The finals was us versus them. They knew they had it into, because they've always beat our high school. And then we're like buzzing and say cheese. And it was literally like, what, go fight them. Like, oh, they're winning, just fight their good player. I am constantly embarrassed about that strategy. We played well, but not as good as her. So we had to destroy her by saying cheese. Shout outs to our coach. He's a great guy. He made me very excited about physics. He was a physics teacher. Nice dude. CTZ likes to say Netrunner's wrestling. Maybe hockey's also wrestling. I don't know too much about wrestling. Does La Costa Charlotte work? I hit Rob every time we play Netrunner. The judges must be saying something about that one, Ian. The guy who said cheese was also... Hold up. Was actually like he was a good player. Like his strat wasn't just cheese. So I did this really wrong. But the idea was there. I just cheesed myself. I just like totally unfocused. And I'm gonna do I can fix this. Counter add 0. Sick. There's nothing wrong with the cheese strategy. Oh, very good, very good, very good. But yeah, that's that is how we did win. And we celebrated our win. That was very hard fought. Genuinely was a great experience. I think she cried, but it's fine. What can we afford to res? I'm gonna advance this because like it's still worth something. We can put a Daniela in server 1, or we can put the Anoetic. The problem is I don't want to score out of Fuji. We need to like slow roll these. That's the issue. So slow rolling a Fuji is possible. We just need to have way more money way faster than this. I think we probably just jammed the NGO front. I wish there was a Netrunner scene anywhere near me so I get into this. Intoxicate, how's it going? What's your area? Have you tried and searched and... Sorry, I'm obviously not entirely focused. Sometimes there's not, that's for sure. But a lot of times there's people like you in your situation who are feeling the same way. Yeah, where you at? This question. Yeah. I'm going to need to review floor rules for NPC Montreal, aren't I? You are. I'm going to call you on all sorts of weird infractions. The kids call it cheesing. AZ bag. All right, we're back in it. We have a credit lead here. The problem is we don't have an economy lead. That was Creative Commission click 1. Sometimes it just do be that way, where you just need to send the burner. Action. Boto is pretty good. It's going to get slap vandaled and poison vialed. I don't really care too much about what happens with a spin doctor in hand, but like we're just going to lose the punitive. We have a Botu. For strength, going to install from hand. None of our ice matters. We have to wear down this storm. Slap vandal and... Yep, poison vial. Okay. Not much to do here. Punitive and Anoetic, that seems bad. Slap Boto's kind of... This deck is just going to slap botch us everything. Like, I don't think it has breakers besides Amakua. It is kind of frustrating. It's the sort of thing like where your ice doesn't matter. Because inherently we don't have any ice that stacks up into this. I don't think actually there's a lot of ice in the meta snacks well into this. Yeah. You can just break net and force trash. I don't think you can afford to do that. In theory, you're right. If you slap a Boto, you can just break the first one and see what happens. I just don't think that's a good use of your click. Like, you can just poison violet. It's an issue. Hammer goated? Yeah, Hammer is good into this. Data loop is fine into it. But like, with jailbreaking HQ? Where's punitive on the bottom of the deck? Yeah, okay. In theory, if they let the Botu fire, we put the Fuji in the bin, right? Like, it's actually not good when there's a spin doctor on the table. Cool. We're just hoping Anansi don't hit the Fuji. Okay, punitive is now off the table. That's fine because punitive is already off the table. Wait, we just need to shuffle the deck. We can just shuffle the deck. If we draw punitive, we win. So I'm just removing this to shuffle 0. 0 is a legal target. It's up to. I think I'm allowed to do that. Can somebody say whether or not I'm allowed to do that? Did I N6 all over the place? Is this an N6 crime? I'm allowed? Hey, Jeff, you can, thank you. Just the person I needed to make me feel confident about that line. Shuffling is a game effect. Very good. Okay. I do not know how this works. I'm going to hope that this works. It doesn't. Allowed, thank you. Even with 0 cards in archives? Come on now, really? So we have a 2 in 30, 2 and 2 in 30 to draw. So we'll go draw. We'll go draw. Shit, we don't have it. Turns out we do not have it. So now the best thing we can do is install another piece of ice somewhere. Okay. Told you winning strat 10 minutes ago? Yep. That's not good. You can do even with 0 cards? Yeah, I think so, demo. You just need to be able to shuffle the deck. 1 or 0 cards in R&D is not because you're not legally shuffling. So now they don't have to do anything. We can still win. Like, we still have data loop. You always have data loop. This interaction doesn't work, which is really clumsy. I think there's a way to make it work, but okay. Yeah, we were meant to draw the punitive there. The problem is the deck only has 2 punitives, and burner is pretty good. I'm surprised they burnered after that. Like, they saw, I guess they'd shuffled 2 away, so it was like 3 cards in hand, hoping that we don't have an agenda. So we lost the Anoetic, we lost the punitive. It's somewhere in there. Here we can Hansei a Charlotte. We probably need to get another ice on HQ. I think putting a Nancy there is fine. Like, we're just going to get hammered. I don't think we Hansei this turn. I don't think we need to. We have a data loop Daniela. There's a way. 100% there's a way. I'm going to put her in the server, actually. It's just like we have to do this whole time while they're like trick shotting at the top of R&D. Like, it's impossible against this breaker suite to make R&D unrunnable. Unless we like put an Anoetic on there, and obviously like that's not a winning line, I don't think. So it is. We should have advanced the NGO front, let's be honest. Yeah. We're not playing well anymore, but yeah, we're kind of cooked here. Data loop Danielle is a lot worse when Fuji's blank and Bacterial's blank. Yeah, but they don't know that. You're right, Fuji's not an additional steal text. Yeah, this is bad. This is not good for us. Why do we advance Charlotte there? Because if we trash Charlotte to jam the agenda, we'll at least get 3 credits. The idea is that we can use her text no matter what happens. And if they contest and we need the money to res ice, we can crack her and get value. It's suspicious. We definitely should advance the NGO front. If we didn't have the NGO front, I think it's a bit more, what's it called? Defensible. But it just means that you can use her mid-turn and not get nothing for it. It's strange. It's not probably correct. So, like, I don't think we do anything here. Like, I don't think their economy gets more robust over time. I think we just, like, hold the ship. Like, we want another ice here. The thing is, like, it's just a matter of time before they trick shot and the game's over. And I don't think we can interact with trick shot favorably. That's too bad. We're not trying last click. I'll say Charlotte Jam Fuji. I think it's a line that we probably lose to. I'm pretty sure Gyro won't run server 1 though, so maybe we should just go for it. Right, like the thing is we don't want to score the Fuji, we want to just like slow roll it. And then that's the thing is like with the open deck list, you know we're not in Biovault. So as soon as we put something in server 1 and we don't immediately snap score it, you know it's an agenda and you should just run it. Like that's a problem with the open deck list and being on game point, is that they don't think they know we're not on traps and he knows that he can just run the remote server. If we had something like a Biovault, maybe, but if we had a Biovault, we wouldn't trash Charlotte. So as soon as there's something in here that we're not actually scoring out and not getting Charlotte value, like, you know, it's an agenda, you just run it. And the worst we can do is like, Cloud Eater into Anansi, and like you don't even have to break one of those. Maybe you're worried this is an Anoetic, but I think he knows that he bottomed the Anoetic. And all their ice is gonna be broken for free. Or for like 2 credits. Third simul chip. Okay. Like we're gonna do it just because it gets us out of the game probably. You plan Lacosta slow roll a spin? Yeah, no, but that's like the thing you have to do. And hopefully that like slow roll anything. It's really funny, but that actually might be correct. Choose a card in server 1. Okay. So 2 Daniellas is fun. I wish we had another piece of ice. So we could do Spin Doctor, draw ice, ice. Yeah, I think we will do that. Anoetic is okay. The thing is, like, it has to survive multiple turns. We have a seamless, so we can do install advance. The thing is, like, with 3 simul chips and a poison vow, there's not much we can do. So the best case scenario is we Lacosta seamless. That's not even enough. I don't think we should advance that. Daniela Charlotte, probably? Actually, Hansei's probably less good. Daniela's worth something. It's a play pattern you can choose to follow. You could slow roll bluff something, but I don't think you can score out if they just trash the upgrades. Yes. Yeah, I don't think they can. Or we can't. If he just trashes everything and runs this a couple times. Now, admittedly, data loop into Daniela is kind of interesting if you mess it up, but like with Anacom, it's hard. It's not on lily pad, so it's not like simul chip's going to draw a card. So like you could mess this up. The problem is like it's not lethal. This is the sort of deck where like adding snares suddenly also has some value. Yeah, it's weird. We're not in a good spot. I think there's a chance like the tournament line here is to play even slower and hope that Gyro like overextends on R&D and then we build ourselves a window. Because you see how Gyro's been playing for the last couple turns. He knows he doesn't have to do anything, but only run in certain board states. And this is definitely one of the board states. Double data loop Anoetic is really tough. It is, but for us, we need Anoetic to survive next turn. We could just score out a send a message and then like have a send a message. But I think we want to seamless this, which means it has to hold for 2 turns. So I think next turn we probably like Anoetic it. But funny enough, even if they run the server and just trash Lacosta, like it's kind of the end of line for us. So for noticing not familiar, Daniela acquires some cards. I don't think we care about this. No, we don't care about this. No Arsana install is interesting. Maybe he wants to check archives. And Anansi would be pretty rude. Yeah, Anansi is pretty rude. This will eat the last poison vial, I think. I don't think the deck's on Physarum. I think it's on Botulus. And that's slightly better into Anansi. We have 1 Mavirus. It's in the bin, though. Greeting from Dalford. Happy to catch a live show on my evening walk. I listen. Jimmy, I don't know where Dalford is, but thanks for tuning in. Welcome. Truly out here proving Issu-Wack is a blank ID. We had a really bad start. Mind you, we took a 1 risk R&D turn, I think. But yeah, stealing, like, most of the replays we saw, the first steal was game deciding. And this is going to be one of the ones as well. So now the idea is that once this gets counters, you can spree it to any other server, but it looks like we might get away with the send a message. I think we will slow roll it, because I think it's pretty safe here on 3 credits. But it's hard to tell what this deck is capable of. I honestly think we're learning to play Mad Dash in the meta. I think there's a lot of decks right now that Mad Dash is really relatively good into. I don't know why people stop playing Mad Dash. I think it's because we stopped playing Stargate. Yeah, Trick Shot. This is last click Trick Shot. That's buck wild. Okay, there's no Arsana here though. So it's all about the simul chip. In theory, we should still ask for priority because they can priority simul chip. But like if this hits, it hits. If it's a snare, it's a problem. You don't have to worry about punitive anymore. I got deck checked into Mad Dash revealed by you at an NPC. Yeah, you did that to yourself, man. Oh man, that happened at an NPC. So we go up to the tables and we ask like, hey, on the side, can we, is there any cards in your deck that have alt arts that we like might not know as casters? And Daria's like, yeah, I got a Mad Dash, and like produce in front of the table in front of Erica, who specifically has a deck that's really weak to Mad Dash. I'm like, Daria, you don't gotta show us. You can do that secret. He's like, oh, my bad. I'm on Mad Dash. And he puts it back into his deck, and I felt so bad. I think during deck checks that came up before too, is like somebody accidentally would say the name of a card or something out loud and you just like feel terrible about it. Hold on, that's a bot. Don't click on that. There's 2 bots in a row? Come on. Ban. How does Twitch not know? They come in and say the same sentence. Like, I got mad at by CTZ this week. You just know when the man loves that card. It's a card. I'm just shit posting during games, no matter the stakes. Tattoo Bullet, gonna get through that. We have no ice in hand. CTZ 3 times in one game, 0 agendas. Have no ice. I know. So there is, I think, 5 agendas in R&D. I'm not sure if Gyro's going to run their remote server. At least maybe the NGO front. Because the NGO front, in theory, is like the winning agenda, right? But technically, a server is safe into double data loop. Unless one of them, I think... Well, firstly, you have to break them. But this is the weakest server, because Amakua runs through this. So the only way we can score Issu-Wack is if we have double seamless in hand. That's super unlikely. Yeah, okay. This at a minimum is fine. In theory, this actually could have been the Issu-Wack thing. Doing my world's goat round with Wenjong. I don't know what that means, but have fun. All right, so we're going to keep this on a message here. I think it's relatively safe. We have to Lacosta it. And then here, we would definitely want another ice on R&D. Thimble Rig is like exactly what you don't want against Amakua, but it allows us to move ice that are more relevant at later spots. Trashing the Enigma Botulus is actually kind of relevant because it means that he has to simul-chip on our turn. I think... I'm worried about like burner into something. At least even non-seen to Botu, which is kind of annoying. But like one spree maybe does it? There's a chance that that does look like a data vault, a data, what's it called? Bio vault? But like, then why do we trash Charlotte? Maybe that's next level. We know the next card in R&D is safe, so I think we just credit. Next turn we can seamless, res maybe a free Anansi. I don't think we want to show the data loops. Because the only pressure I think we're going to see on other servers here is burner. And burner and Anansi both is not great. This is now 6 though. At least Slap Vandal doesn't care. And that's the thing, is like as soon as next turn we can do install advance Fuji, or even install advance Fuji and hope to Lacosta, and like that's game. Like that is where Issu-Wack actually might be very exciting, is that we can win the game way faster than you think we can. Right now Gyro has an econ problem. Mind you, money doesn't matter when you're just using Botulus. That being said, it will 100% matter when it comes to like, oh, how much does a poison vial cost to install? It can't cost that much. Michael, $2. All right, we fired Issu-Wack. If we top deck the next seamless, we can win in 2 turns. Check this out. We advanced the Sam, so we do seamless, score. We'll send a message, Resident Anansi. Then we'll just install advance the Fuji, and we can win next turn. This is what Issu-Wack does. Wins in 2 turns. Now we can fire Anoetic a couple times. Data loop matters. Daniela matters. Wait, we actually can win. Wait, is Fuji sick? Is Issu-Wack sick? Are we doing it? Are we believing? But Gyro might not have expected to go from 0 points to 7 points in 2 turns. Mind you, the Issu-Wack counter here means we win on 6 points. That seems relevant. When Lacosta into the remote server wins the game. You have 4 clicks to figure this out. Why didn't you believe before? I did. The way the game was going, I didn't believe. But like, I think we're in this situation because Gyro did not contest server 1. And I think you do contest server 1 here. You say you can win as fast as you can, but you're not always spending Charlotte turn, dirtling, and playing the most NP way. I don't think it's the most NP way, but we're definitely dirtling until we set it up. Andre's focusing now. Jeez. Oh, man. Four clicks. We've seen no sprees. The botches are on 2 counters a pop. That's just enough for data loop. You only need 1 for data loop. 3 clicks left, but a lot of cards in hand. You have to now run this 3 times with Anoetic, unless you have a pinhole. You have to run it 3 times because we can fire Anoetic every time. If you burner, it technically is the same because you burner Anoetic instead of. Now the top of R&D is unknown. I want to play Econ Denial Crim, but these Jinteki decks are too damn rich. Yeah, just pinhole the Charlotte. The whole game falls apart. The problem is you can't break Boto and Anansi for any amount of money that makes any amount of sense. Like, that's why they need a pretty cheaper ice for Jinteki. So, like, it feels like you can interact a bit. I don't know. I like face checking into Anansi's when they pay 8 credits for it. Okay, trick shot. We're just hoping that we went off of R&D, which I get it. We have no way of interacting favorably with this. You can only Anoetic twice? We only Anoetic twice due to cards in hand, right? I didn't do any econ math. So now we have to hope the top of R&D holds. There's currently, how many agendas? There are only 3 agendas in 18. Yeah, dude up. I think that means Gyro has a spree if they're trying to keep the botchless tokens. They did print cheaper ice for Jinteki. Envelope gets broken for 1 credit. That was a long time ago. That's an FOG card. It's pretty solid to other breakers people are playing. The problem is like people are playing Cleaver. Eventually Cleaver won't exist, and then I'm still not sure if you're excited about Envelope. Yeah, people are playing a lot of other barrier breakers, more now than they've ever been. Are we gonna swap it? Yeah, we might as well. Give some misinformation. They're both broken for the same. Having 4 more credits doesn't actually matter, I don't think. Yeah, Daria, people are playing all sorts of fractors in Shaper. Looks like we survive. So let's see if they swing at server 1. They swing at server 1. Oh shit, we lose to this because this is 3 runs. Oh, it comes down to cards in hand. I don't think we have it anymore. Oh, we sort of asked for action there. That's on us. I ran to Endless Eula in the wild for the first time in like 10 months, and of course I wasn't on Cleaver. Yeah, Arizon was playing Endless Eula recently in the Asmari deck. Shaper isn't real. Shaper is the most real. Kurapira sees almost all the criminal play, for better for worse. This is going to draw a card too. I think we actually might be cooked. I think 2 data loop Anoetic's not going to hold. Because Gyro can run this 3 times. Actually, there's a chance that you don't have enough cards to do that. Because every time it's 4 cards, yeah, no, we're probably fine. They can't afford Danielle. Yeah, after 2 runs, Daniela might matter. They need 14 cards. I don't think they need 4. Do they? Wait, hold on. 4 plus 4 plus 4. Yeah, they need a lot of cards. You're right. They do need a lot of cards. I don't think this deck is on Hush, considering it's on like all the influence worth Botcheli. Like I think it's on 9 Botcheli. I think it has a DJ Fenris. That's a ring up. That's pretty cool. It does have a pinhole. Oh, that would have been pretty good. But you can't really tell which one of these you need to deal with. Technically kind of both, but not really. Or a cup. Yeah, cup beats Daniela. That's true. But I don't see it. This deck is also, I don't think on SMC and on Muse. Like I think it just plays everything from hand. Oh, it does have a Muse. Okay. I don't think it's on SMC. It's on Harmony. Which kind of makes sense. You have a lot of like one-off pot like pressure cards. Amaku can't break either. No, it's 1 short. You're right. But here they're like simul-chip over. Yeah, you're right, actually. Just 1 short is good. Slap Vandal, only 1 subroutine you care about. Stone Shipper Cup beats it. They get past Anoetic. I don't think they can do all of it, especially because they just use Arsana. But I don't think there's a Hush here. It is. I am not jealous of the Shaper That must click a lot. Action. Yeah, jnet's really slow, so apologies if this is more unbearable than the usual stream, but 2 more cards are gone. You're down to 2 in hand. This actually is maybe tricky to break. Like, you can silent shift the slap handle. Okay. But yeah, every interaction point that should take 2.5 seconds takes like 8 seconds. It's not great. We might not do another jnet game after this. We might do something else because jnet's just been struggling all day. I was like having an afternoon to record Alphabet series footage and like we're just totally cursed. Hopefully it's better tomorrow because I have some time to record tomorrow. Build to last. I'm actually having kind of fun with it. I'm trying to build 2 build to last decks to figure out which one like makes more sense. And I honestly think the one that you'd be more surprised of is the more powerful version. Trash-or-Busto? Hey, Jeff, I don't know if the website off by heart anymore. Is it just Trash-or-Busto dot? It's dot something. TTS Netrunner. I was playing something recently on TTS. Forget what. Unfortunately. Oh, this is going to end the run. But you're 1 trick shot credit. Do you all see the Toronto Nationals trick shot and Mitosis alt art? They're so good. I'm particularly fond of the trick shot. The trick shot's incredible. They're both Scott Dominguez, who's a Toronto local. They're very, very, very nice. I think. Trash-or-Busto Heroku app, thank you. Data Loop taking 2 back. We're down to 2 cards. We have Anoetic, we have Daniela. Gyro has 2 cards in hand. This list is also, you know, not on Anemone, which could help. Yeah, this one turn is going to take 5 minutes. I think I might go just for the trick shots. I think a lot of folks will go just for the trick shots. Slay the Spire on TTS. Maichin, how's it going? I don't honestly think that playing Slay the Spire on TTS is a better experience than playing Slay the Spire. On like Slay the Spire. Firewall, okay. So now the top of R&D is safe. We know HQ is safe. The worst case scenario is that Gyro pinholes the Lacosta, and if you pinhole the Lacosta, you buy yourself a turn. Unless we top deck the Seamless Launch. Go for the trick shot, stay for Josh's weird side game for prizes. Josh has said there's more prize support too. I need to bother Josh to see if there's more progress on the stream. By the way, Maichin, welcome to the stream. I think that's what you said the other day. Yeah, I haven't played it. It's like just a bit fiddly. Like if you play TTS, you know, all the good mods have like locking of like bits to spots, stuff like that. And unfortunately, all the health tracking is on cards and there's no functionality to lock bits to cards. Is now a good time to send your Arkham list? Oh, Kat, you have your Arkham list? Yeah, 100% is a great time to send an Arkham list. That actually may be a fantastic time. There's some good Arkham news today and over the last week. FFG's had some sad news. If you're a player of Star Wars X-Wing or Star Wars Armada, they are discontinued it officially as of today, which is obviously a bummer. I'm really worried about the future of FFG. Arkham stream. Kat, have you built your list yet? You're the last one to go. Also, taking so long to do this, I'm only just now remembering you win next turn. FML, yeah, right? The Issu-Wack vice. Yeah. I think in the replays, oh, you win. It's like a not uncommon sentiment. Also, is that Arkham channel ever spinning up? I want to get hooked in another game. Jeff, it really should be. I've been really behind on everything I need to do. And that is definitely one of the ones I need to have done by now. Jeff, actually, we need to get to playing, honestly. I think that's where the channel needs to start to some extent. But I've been working on some coding stuff. Jailbreaking HQ makes sense. FFG is going to be okay, but Atomic Mass Games is annoying. I don't know if FFG is going to be okay. Weren't they like saddled with 900 million euros of debt? Is FFG making anything other than Arkham? Yeah, Marvel Champions. They make some board games, obviously. Lord of the Rings, they're just repackaging old stuff. But our Marvel Champions has been really good this year. Really good last year. Not as much content as you want there to be. You were sick, it's all good. Yeah. Star Wars Unlimited is printing money. Yeah, Star Wars Unlimited, mind you, just dropped. I think people are relatively happy with it. Lorcana is obviously chugging away. I think they just announced their 5th set. I'm not a Lorcana player. I've not played Star Wars Unlimited. So these sort of decks that like play most of their game plan, you know, from hand, they can break any ice. It's really hard to tell what they can and can't do. It's like the equivalent of like some sort of Magic blue deck or whatever, where they just, all their tricks come from hand. Okay, so we're not drawing a seamless launch. So this doesn't matter. Coding stuff? Cheer bogus friend? No, I made a, something that, like, my first essay for Arkham Horror is basically how damn good, what's it called is, the upgrade to the ally that allows you to look at 4 tokens, pick 2, instead of the one that's 3 tokens, pick 2. The numbers are surprising. Isn't Star Wars Unlimited Ravensburger? No, only Lorcana's Ravensburger. Star Wars Unlimited is FFG. Olive McBride. Olive McBride on 2 or 3 experience. I can show you a bit of the code. It's really, really absurdly good. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good for so many reasons. It's about akin to getting 1 willpower stat point. On certain bags, less so than others. But it is basically just, like, there's no card in the game for that amount of experience that lets you cancel basically the autofail on every test once a turn. Because as long as you're testing at the last, more than the bottom 2 tokens in any bag, you beat the autofail. Unless there's curse. She's very, very good. This is like, hope you don't discard a card from hand. I was playing Olive 2 and Sister Mary and she did so much work. Yeah, it's so much better. Look at 4 pick 2 is like mathematically way better than 3 pick up 2. It's not intuitive. Olive 2 is killing with my gym deck. Are you playing alternate gym or normal gym? I played Olive in alternate gym and loved it. So like playing against blue control and MTG, just keep having threats until something gets through and don't lose. I don't know, because I haven't played a lot of MTG. I just think I get frustrated with card games in which the majority of interaction comes straight from hand as opposed to on the table. Like Netrunner's very not like that. Like Netrunner, generally all the things you worry about are things on the table, and then sometimes the cards from hand really matter. Like playing around inside jobs, for instance. Maybe install Boomerang and then run. But this deck, like more than others, all the tricks come from hand. All the run events come from hand. There's no like table pressure. All the tricks come from hand. All the, you know, these come from hand. So but normal regular Arasana is not often like that, because Arasana has an economy that you can kind of keep track of and understand what she's capable of. As much as like install, muse, coalescence, fire, environmental testing is like kind of hard to keep track of. But this one specifically feels to me very, very different than everything else. And it's Gyro's the only one I've seen playing an archetype like this. Hey, Issuaq really mattered. Unfortunately, this was a 43-minute game that was only like 10 turns. That doesn't seem tenable. Good game. Thanks for the game. But that's where Issuaq really matters. Like we went from 0 points to 7 points across 2 turns. Admittedly, it was more like 3 turns. Like our opponent had multiple turns to interact with it. Just trashing the Lacosta, like that's the most important thing if you're playing against this deck. Trash the Lacosta. Because without the Lacosta and only 2 seamless launches, this deck cannot do its thing. Because you need the Lacosta. You can't rely on 2 seamless launches. I agree with this deck is very hand trappy, which I don't love its design space. This Arasana, yeah. Yeah, the early start was really good for you. I feel like punitive is the problem. I feel like bacterial programming is the problem for punitive. Yeah, that's a good one. Why is it not running laggy now? Kat, do you have the list? You might not be able to post URLs. You might have to like obfuscate it, because if you're seeing it, we're not seeing it. Hey, thanks, game. All right, we did the thing. That's pretty cool. It's interesting how MTG and Netrunner follow different philosophies and instant speed interaction. MTG has mostly removed onboard tricks from the game, and Netrunner's mostly just that. For real. What am I posting? The list, your Susie list, if you want to share it. Does MTG really have not a lot of board presence like that? Back pro can be tossed into the sun? Yeah, I think so. Hand trappy. What about deck trappy? Punitive is the ultimate deck trappy. Let's do some news real quick. Thank you, Kat. That worked. Although, okay, hold on. We're gonna do some news first. Susie, double question marks. Okay, just some real quick news for those who don't know. What's it called? Is next, starting in less than 24 hours, is the APAC Continentals. I'm really excited about that. It's online. It's open to anyone. You don't have to be part of that time zone. Obviously, that will help you, but that is out really, really soon. That should be here, Continental Championship dates. That should be streamed, mind you, on Null Signal Netrunner, twitch.tv/Null Signal Netrunner, not Null Signal Games. And that's starting really soon, June 15th and 16th at 9 a.m. Technically for us, that's like June 14th. If you're watching from my time zone, that is tomorrow night. Still need to figure out decks, yeah. Dario is going to be playing late into the early morning. If you're allowed to play Susie in standalone, I think you are allowed to play Susie standalone. Do you think APAC will finally be won by someone in APAC? I think there's the biggest chance that this year there will be. I think the APAC players are obviously capable of winning the event. I don't think that was the issue. I think it will be a bit bigger. I think the meta is a bit more solidified. It's weird how that's both the case and not the case, considering like nobody could have expected what the last metas for the last couple events were, and they still don't make entirely sense about it. I think I don't know if you consider the West Coast of the States APAC. I don't think you do. I think they're going to put up a fight for sure. I don't know. Theoretically, investors that gave Embracer Group the 18-month maturity loan did diligence and anticipate as Muddy being able to pay it back. I think out of the three options, they were the most likely to be able to pay it back. But I do think having your companies, maybe you don't argue suddenly, but at least eventually saddled with 900 million euros of debt is not going to do well for taking risks and supporting non-necessary things. So for instance, if you play Lord of the Rings LCG, you might know they're not printing any new content for that game. And that actually might be like just business sense the right thing to do. And they're just repackaging their old content so newer players can pick that up in a format that makes sense. Find you the same with Arkham Horror, as much as they're still printing new content. But I just don't expect FFG to like take risks and do the sort of things that we kind of wish them to do, like the weird niche nerdy stuff, like return to products. And, you know, I don't know. It's definitely not going to help. I'd be very surprised if it helped. You can play Susie in standalone, much like the parallel, but it's funky with how she works. Oh, because her upgrading is like, oh yeah, she's probably really hard because of the upgrading. Susie upgrade rules seem to make her not playable in standalone, so I kind of just ignored them. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. We'll get back to that in a second. We're just going to finish the news and then we can Arkham tangent for a bit. This also came up today. I'll be honest, when I read this morning, I was relatively upset. It was a miscommunication. This will be updated, but Tournament Spotlight and NPC 2024. This is fantastic. This seems to be written in response to, mind you, we did a stream on Tuesday with Yeti talking about the upcoming UK regionals, which was a fantastic stream. Shout out to Yeti for joining. And we're going through all the dates and the ideas behind another very similar grassroots circuit, just to get more players and more seats and more events of more calibers across the UK. So if you want to tune in on the Tuesday stream VOD, otherwise you can see the really cool prize support and the playmat, all this stuff was commissioned. And artist is Brindlemold, who is from the Northeast around where Not Yeti lives. And there's a bunch of very exciting tournaments across basically the late part of summer into early part of autumn, which is fantastic. You can find more information here. We linked to the new UK Discord. So if you're a UK Netrunner player and you want to get involved in this stuff or just meet other players, I'd recommend finding the link. I'll attach it to this if I remember. If at minimum is attached to the Tuesday stream, if you hit more in the description. Similar to that, of course, we've been supporting and following NPC, which was the like North American initiative that we were going to say kind of lit the fire underneath a lot of people to get more grassroots organized tournaments. And NPC has been the first year this year, and it's been an absolute success. This is written by Eric Whiteblade Keelback, you might know, has been writing for a long time on Stim Slack ever since he was 14 years old. And this has been, again, a very similar idea of a grassroots tournament circuit all across North America. Talking about some of the previous events, including Boston, we were there. I had a great time. It was streamed on Neon Static. Such a fantastic stream, such a fantastic event. There's an NPC Toronto, Vancouver. Just this weekend was an NPC Off the Grid. You can watch the second day was streamed on it's orbital_tangent on Twitch, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's some upcoming events. I was upset because Montreal should be here. It's August 24th and 25th. Whiteblade wrote this up, wasn't aware that we locked down a date and a space. I think part of that's my not communicating it directly as much as I've been saying on the channel, and he didn't reach out to double check, which maybe that's on both of us, but this will be updated. Mind you, August 24th at 25th at the Silver Goblin. We'll have more information. We'll have up as of next week the ABR page so you can like see it and say you're going and all this sort of stuff, but I'm really excited because it's going to be a killer event. Between now and then, mind you, July 13th, 14th is an NPC Philadelphia, San Francisco at the end of July, and then early August in NPC Seattle, which is Cascadia, just like last year, which is great. Cool. I think that's most of the news. Oh, actually, the EU store is back open. That's fantastic. Shout out to Hector or to what is it, the handle Rainbow Monkey, who I believe injured himself a couple months ago, which had been a problem in the store, but it looks like it's back open. Since reopening, several customers reported they were unable to order as they deliver address. We're reported ineligible. This is an issue with our courier partner software, and we've been investigating it. The EU store has been cursed for the longest time. The monkey's paw. That's really cool that this is back open. On that note, I should remind you, for those who don't know this, shout out to Dave Redemptor, who's been answering some of the emails to Mill Signal support. But if there's any case you went to Worlds 2023 last year and you received any amount of prize support, you might have noticed is that your prize support that you got from that event, which is phenomenal prize support, the card stock for the cards are very different than the card stock of normal Netrunner cards, to the point that I will probably not bring them to a tournament unless I double sleeve my deck, because when I pick up the card and I bend it, I can tell which cards are prize support cards and which are not. That is a mistake. Luckily, the folks at NSG are very kind to try and rectify this for all people at no cost. I filled out a form a couple months ago saying like, hey, they have a replacement prize update, and I didn't receive anything in the mail. I reached out and they said everything was shipped out in March. If you didn't receive anything, you should probably contact Null Signal Games about it. A bunch of other people had that same issue. And so we contacted out. Enough people did. It seems like there's some issue with the post or some part of the system. So in short, if you either have or haven't, I still think they want information on both sides, have applied for a prize replacement for Worlds, fill out the form again before June 23rd. Even if you have previously applied, so we can capture any changes in address or other details. So kindly make sure you do this if you're looking for your replacements. If you don't think you need replacements, power to you, that's really cool. But just so you know this, if you filled this out back in like February and you're waiting on stuff, you haven't got stuff, please fill this out again. That's definitely gonna help. Shout out to people like Dave, who's just like answering, you know, NSG support tickets and doing stuff like this. Like, this is very easily thankless work, and it's obviously very appreciated. So shout out to NSG people. Fantastic stuff. Who am I seeing at Philly? July 13th and 14th in Philadelphia. It's a bit further than Jersey, but it's on my radar. Yeah, cheers to NSG. Gyro, good game, by the way. Okay. We might go a bit on a tangent here, so bear with me. JNet's down. But we wanted to look at this deck list because we're playing some in-person Arkham in the near future. Oh my god. Why is this list this big? Has to play 50 cards. Okay, this is part of Arkham that I've never seen before. And so Kat is building Subject Susie, the Anomaly. If you don't know what Arkham is, we have a couple streams on this channel where we teach you how to play. If you search Arkham on the channel, and Arkham is one of my favorite card games. It's just very, 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 very good. I don't promise this works. Yeah, I'm excited to see, because I don't know what a work Susie looks like, as much as I've heard that Susie, between the the gradient of meme joke ID and which Susie kind of looks like, and like playable competitive deck, it's actually closer to the competitive like playable deck, which is pretty good. Look, the Netrunner. Oh yeah, system update 21. Let's go. So let's talk about the Anomaly. Comes from no class, so it's classless, neutral. I guess the frame says that this should be Susie faction. The Anomaly, neutral, willpower 1, intellect 1, combat 1, agility 1, 6 health, 6 sanity. Those are bad stats. I don't have to tell you that probably. Not only is that less stats than just about every character has, there's a couple that have worse than that, but 12 is not what you expect. You usually used to have about 15 here. So this is low stats as well. You begin the game with Ravenous Controlled Hunger in play, or Ravenous Uncontrolled Hunger in play side. That's probably going to be a permanent asset. During each upkeep phase, draw 1 additional card and devour a anonymous weakness card, player card in your hand. So you get 2 cards every turn, but you lose 1. That honestly sounds fine. If I had to draw 2 and just discard a card every turn, I would take that ability just in most card games. So let's see what devour means. This is not a keyword that anybody knows what it means. It's unique to Susie. We'll figure it out together. As a fast action, you can also devour a non-story card controlled by investigator at your location. So that would be an installed card, I'm assuming. I don't think you can devour cards from the opponent's hand. I'm assuming. It's weak to anons. Yeah, I'm max, kind of. Exactly, max, kind of. Effect +2. After this test ends, you may add a devoured card to its owner's hand. I hate just positive stat elder sign effects. I was pretty sure the folks at FFG said they would stop doing that. We're still getting elder sign effects that just say like +1 for every circumstance, and those just are useless. I like that they actually have an effect. The effect is really cool. The +2 is a benefit, but I'm so annoyed whenever there's an our investigator that just has +2. It's like, why? Nobody cares about that. We begin the game with endless hunger in play. It's almost what this is going to be. This is going to be like some sort of mix of max and apex. So the question is, what is devour? What is ravenous? So this is ravenous. This is ravenous. Ravenous. Okay. Controlled Hunger, it's a permanent, so it's going to start in play, stays in play, you can't leave it. Flesh and Blood. Each time you devour a card, place it face down beneath Ravenous. You get +1 to each of your skills for each card beneath Ravenous, max +5. So in 5 turns, you have a 6/6/6/6 stat line. That's really good. Card seems good. But forced, if there are 5 or more cards beneath Ravenous, flip it over. That's probably going to be bad. Now, this is not optional. Every turn you have to feed Ravenous, so that you can feed it faster, but normally every turn you're going to go from 1/1 to 2/2 to 3/3 to 4/4 to 5/5 to 6/6. Then we'll see what happens. Unfortunately, the see what happens button doesn't exist, so I have to search Ravenous. Hold on. Not doing so should be illegal. Sorry. Legally, can I use a copy of Endless Hunger as a proxy for Ravenous? There's a chance, yeah. Ravenous is a permanent card. The ability putting into play only has to be there to specify a side. Yes. But it also permanent means that it cannot be removed. So like if a card says discard an asset, you can't discard Ravenous. Ravenous. So on the side after it gets 5 cards, it flips. We don't see the art. Each time you devour a card, set it aside out of play. So now each turn you're removing a card from the game. Honestly, I don't think that's a really bad cost. Removing a card from the game is totally fine. It's just like, you're not charging your Ravenous apparently, but like it doesn't matter. With a 50 card deck, you're not cycling through it. You get +1 to each of your skills for each card beneath Ravenous. So you're still going to be ravening cards, but then that's it. At the end of your turn, devour a non-story card beneath Ravenous or controlled by Investigator your location. If there's nothing beneath Ravenous, flip it over. So the idea is you power up to 6/6/6/6, then you're still swallowing cards, but they're giving you no benefit, and then you go down back to 1/1/1/1, and then you charge back up again. Now you can stay at 6/6/6/6/6 or 5/5/5/5 or somewhere in the middle, as long as you're devouring non-story cards controlled by an Investigator your location. That can be you, but that also can be other players. So if other players have cards that are empty that they don't care about, they can sacrifice them to the slime gods to be able to like just keep you at a 6/6/6/6 power level. So far, this just looks totally fine. This looks totally playable. It looks like solid fundamentals. Your early game's gonna stink. Very not that different than Calvin, I don't think. And then eventually you'll be going between 6/6/6 and 4/4/4s. I don't think you want to bottom back out to 1/1/1/1/1. That's probably pretty bad. But staying somewhere between 6 and 4 is totally fine for Investigator that you can build around it. Now you do start with a couple of these cards. Regurgitation. Fast costs nothing. Wild. That's pretty good. Play only during your turn. Okay. Did you know that you can only play fast assets during your turn? It's not written on the card. It's technically your rules. Like, you think fast means you can play it at any player ability window. That's not the truth. Fast assets can only be played on your turn. I did not know that for the first like 6 years of playing Arkham. But that is technically true. Now this says you can only play it on your turn, but fast events you can play it. Yeah, I did not know that. Me neither. It's like one sentence in the rule book, and it just does not seem like you think fast just means play at any played ability window, but apparently not if it's an asset. Like, I think that's a really clumsy rule. If Ravenous Uncontrolled Hunger is face up, flip it over so it goes bad. Choose and return up to 3 cards you devoured to their owner's hand. For each card returned this way, heal 1 damage or 1 horror. And I think you have like 3 of these in your deck. Oh, that's really good. Firstly, the art is super high quality. That's sick. So the idea with this card is once you're on your down turn, so you're going 6/6/5/5/4/4, you can speed that up by 3 turn cycles by just returning 3 cards, which means there'll be fewer cards underneath the thing, and that will accelerate it. So instead of like counting down in 6 turns, you count down in 2 card turns. That's good. I honestly don't think I would play this until I'm down ticking, and then you just barf up your stuff, and then you return it to people. It goes back to their hands, which is really good, and then they heal damage or horror. Knowing this card exists, I wouldn't be upset if you ate some of my cards that I don't want now. Cool thing too is you can eat cards that have charges and then barf them back up, and then you can replay them and there'll be new cards with charges. Like, you can empty your revolver, get swallowed, and then suddenly get spit out with more bullets. Like, that's actually potentially very, very valuable for the team, let alone yourself. This seems sick. This is a really cool way to make the downside not that bad of a downside. Heal 1 damage or 1 horror is pretty good. Now this is the weakness. Oh, I love the frame break. Power. If Ravenous Controlled Hunger is face up, flip it over, so it always goes to the bad side. You devour a random aspect of reality. So sometimes that means as little to me as it does to you. Reveal a random chaos token from the chaos bag and consult the reality acid reference card to determine what you devoured. So this card is a reference to a standalone scenario about the blob that ate everything. And it's a bit of a spoiler, but whenever the blob has to eat something, you pull a token and then you consult this chart that came in the book. And the amount of things, a minor spoiler, that it can swallow or it can consume are absurd. Like basic things like your cards, but then it can swallow people's voices, the lights in the room, everyone's cell phones, like the chairs you're sitting on. Like the card can just swallow anything, and then you have to kind of like do what it says. So this is a riff on that. So let's figure out what the reality asset chart is. Subject Susie devours. If the chaos token revealed is not listed, pull until you have another one. So we're playing with Bless and Curse, so that's not going to come up. So some of these should be good, some of these should be bad. Let's see how wild they get. Elder Sign, a non-elite enemy or treachery at your location worth no victory points. That is sick. If you can make this come up consistently, because this is technically reveal a token, that's amazing. +1, the top card of each investigator's discard pile, that doesn't matter. The top card of each investigator's deck, that doesn't matter. A card random from your hand, that does matter. That's annoying. A non-story card, non-weakness asset controlled by an investigator at your location. You have full choice over what that is. That shouldn't be that bad. A player card attached to your location or attached to an encounter card at your location. That probably misses a lot of the time. That should miss more than often. The top 2 cards of each investigator's deck, that doesn't matter. 3 cards of your choice from your hand. Okay, -5. Yeah, good luck. These don't matter because these are not real icons. Skull, 1 card beneath Ravenous at random. That doesn't matter. That actually accelerates you. Well, it could drop you down, actually. That could be good, could be bad. Each card committed to each skill test of your location until the end of the next investigation phase. That doesn't matter. This game doesn't have as much recursion as other card games. If you lose a skill card you committed, the chance of you replaying that same skill card before the end of the scenario is pretty low for most decks. Each event played by an investigator doesn't matter. The player card of your location with the most evidence, supplies, ammo, charges, or secrets on it. That's bad. That one's uniquely very bad. And then reveal 3 more chaos tokens, resolve each of those. That's just fun. This looks good. This looks fine. I honestly think Susie, I would want to print Susie. Susie looks fun. It is neutral. Okay, they confirmed that, but that actually looks really cool. I'm into this. 9 out of 10. Cool design. Looks fun. Let's look at the deck that Cat put together. Now, we have to keep in mind the deck building restrictions are probably, they don't make any sense in context. You have 50 deck size. You can only play neutral cards and cards from any class at level 0. And then anytime that you upgrade your deck, it's kind of cut off there on the bottom. You can upgrade a card from your deck based off of whatever faction you've swallowed the most cards of. I think that's going to be a problem, that it's going to be hard for you to build a deck. I'm okay. I'm signing up to see Susie do a Susie thing, but in theory, it should be hard to make Susie do the thing you want consistently to do, because upgrading the deck doesn't make a lot of sense. I can eat a locked door. Yum. Yeah, I know. I may have ignored the last bit. Yeah, I noticed. I definitely noticed. You're still hitting the deck building restriction of having 7 cards from every class, which is pretty fun. Like that is a fun deck building restriction. And so the question here is like, you have this like tabula rasa of eating the right cards in the right order at the right time to make your upgrade path make some amount of sense, which is pretty cool. The blob that ate everything and the accompanying investigator are super fun. I was working with the team who ran that event at Gen Con last year and looked so cool. Oh, get out. Didn't get to play personally, was busy working myself. I got to play it once in person so far, and I think we lost the lights. I know that when my friends played it at a board game store, they had to shut the lights off on the store, which it was after hours, so it was okay. I died. My investigator, I was playing alternate Roland. He actually died in that scenario. I think he was swallowed, which, yeah. Yeah, Blob was fun. I've only played it once, though, but it's fun. Reminder that if a token you draw would result in no change in game state, you draw again. I don't think that's true. I don't know if that's true. Lights might be hard. Yeah, lights can be a difficult one. I played Susie in the campaign. She was very powerful, even with just basic actions, and most of the deck has been there to keep her full. Yeah, I could see that. So the idea is that you can kind of, assuming that you're going to be eventually be on 444 stats up to 666 stats, you can do whatever you want. And so I would just play the best case, like best stuff to put in any slot to be as flexible as possible. It's like a bit of an unfortunate thing. It's kind of like building Ampere or Nova. It's just like, just play the best things because you're able to get away with just about anything. So the question is, what does Cat think are the best things? And I don't think I'm going to be able to be like, that's a card that should go into Susie, because trying to imagine the entirety of the whole card pool is going to be pretty difficult. So Machete is fine. Are there better cards than Machete that you can play for 0 experience? I think there's a chance. I think you could consider playing the Enchanted Blade because it has charges, so you can swallow it and regurgitate it. I think that's fine, and it's overall a better weapon. I think we're playing at 4 players. Machete at 4 players is both awkward and not awkward, because firstly, you have to engage the enemy. That's sometimes harder with 4 players. So Machete wouldn't be my first go-to, like 0 XP weapon. It's definitely not bad, though. But maybe you can get away with it as a flex fighter, but I don't think Machete would be my first choice. Mag Glass is sick, fast, really good. Just get a fast card on the table. Scroll Secrets is free card draw. I don't see why not. Switchblade is probably fine. Succeed by 2 or more can be a bit tricky. This is fast. I think this card, oh, it's not tabooed anymore, but yeah, that's fine too. You're gonna be at 6 plus 2 might be hard. You still do 1 damage though if you fight with that anyways. That might just be enough. I do not know what this card is. Uses 1 charge. Spend 1 circle and exhaust, close the circle. Take a basic action. For every skill test performed during the action, you may use your willpower instead of the skill indicator for your action. From the distance, if all your skills are at the same stat level, I don't know why you would play this. Unless we have some way in the deck to boost willpower. Charge? Padma card? 100%. Worst case, I'll snack on it. Yeah, but like, we're running into that sort of like, worst case, I'll sell it to Aesop's pawn shop. You're not wrong, but like, you could hopefully do slightly better than that. Susie greatly benefits from the Edge of the Earth multi-class payoff cards. Oh, for a deck upgrading. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah. It's for extra actions because I have a billion charges on it. Oh, it takes a basic action. Oh, it's fast. I've never played this card. I should read the card. Spend 1 charge and exhaust. Take a basic action for each skill test performed. Use willpower. Oh, that's fine. That seems fine. I could see that. Haste is a cool card in general. As long as you do, it's basically like Jeeves, or sorry, Wage Workers. If you do the same thing twice, you can do another thing. If you're taking a lot of basic actions, why not? This seems totally fine. Eon Chart, same idea. You can cheat in basic actions. Mind you, this has been tabooed to be following basic actions. You can't use your cards in play. That's fine. Mag Glass doesn't care. So that's fine. Cigarette Case, succeed by 2 is, yep, within the realm of possibility. Free card draw is great. Rabbit's Foot, there's some point in time where this will be fine for you because you're failing because your stats are bad. I think if that's the case, I would play less Rabbit's Foot and I would play more of, what's that like busted skill card that says draw 2, gain 2 when you fail the test? I think I'd probably play that a bit more. Backpack, sure. I think we have enough items. It's hard to tell. 32 assets seems like, yeah, take heart. Take heart. Not drawing thin is also hard. Well, you're playing drawing thin. Okay. Because you're playing drawing thin, I would 100% also play take heart. Take heart is just one of the strongest cards in the whole game. Rabbit Foot, aren't they all? But Cat, you can eat anything. You can eat cards from your hand, right? Take heart is just cracked. Like, if it's bad, you swallow it. If it's good, it's free card draw and free credits, swallow it. Like, this is the sort of card you want to play specifically when you're playing also drawing thin, because you just commit this to drawing thin and you gain like 4 credits, draw 2 cards. This card's busted. It's honestly busted card. Okay, Lab Assistant. This is just draw 2. Hand size +2. I could see having big hand size pretty good in Susie for sure. Leo seems maybe a bit expensive. I can't tell where your money is. It looks like the deck has no money besides Faustion. That actually is probably going to be an issue for you. You could look into that for sure. But Leo's pretty expensive. I imagine the click compression you get from Leo is not that bad because your basic actions are really strong, but you could consider playing an ally that is a bit like has a bit more of a nuanced role that's a slightly cheaper. I don't know what that is. It's worth knowing that at the table, I don't think anyone's playing Leo, and at 4 players, you have to care about that. But it's probably fine. Faustner Schaffner drawing thin. Yeah, drawing thin actually is a lot of money. You're right about that. Schaffner's is like mixed bag. Oh, you do have Enchanted Blade. Okay, never mind. Sick. You have Enchanted Blade. Okay, that's what I was talking about. That's really, really good in this deck. Solemn Vow. Huh. Do you have healing? You have a really low healing total. I'm assuming that we have ways to heal naturally. This is a card you can put on the table. You can eat it, but I think you can eat all cards in your hand too. Can you not eat cards in your hand? Controlled by Investigator. In your hand. I guess you can do both. D, how's it going to eat? Love Take Heart? Take Heart is busted. It is so good. The worst part is when you succeed. Mouse Mask. I think Mouse Mask is one of the worst masks. I think you can take any mask. Obviously, you can take any mask. I'm not convinced Mouse Mask is that good. For what it's worth, this clause is going to be absolutely clogged by Ursula. Ursula is going to eat the condition on this mask for you, and you're never going to get this to fire. So I would not lean on Mouse Mask. Which mask would you play? It depends on what you're imagining most of your turns to be. I think Investigating is one of the better ones that like base actions attached to investigating more than they do to fighting in a better way. So maybe the one that's book and something else. I'm not sure which one that would be. But I actually might not play any mask. But it's just gonna be really hard when like Ursula is dotting around and doing all the exploring for you. I think also with 6/6 stat line, like the thing is like if you're expecting Susie to be on 6/6 stat line for most of the game, I'm imagining that you don't actually have to boost your stats. You need to add more efficiency to your actions, right? Like check this out. So Magnifying glass gives you maybe 7, 7, 7, 7. That honestly could be overkill, but you might be better suited with something like what's it called? Fingerprint kit. Because your stats are really good. Now you just have to leverage your stats to do better than the base actions that your stats will get you to. Right? Like a lot of other Arkham is like a mixture of increasing your stats, increasing your click efficiency to get stuff done. Your deck is probably going to have very good stats for most of the game. So I'd actually lean into cards like this that give you better, like, just per action payoffs. There's a lot of ways to do that for sure. So I don't know if you need the mouse mask. I think you need efficiency, not stats. Sharpeners is great. I don't know if you want to do scavenging. Scavenging might not make sense because I think you just swallow your cards. I'll take that as a messed up card. Love it. Really like it that you can play this outside of the criminals that want to play it. One of my favorite cards. I think this card's absolutely cracked too. Ever Vigilant. That's really cool. Oh, 4 XP Ever Vigilant. You got really greedy with your XP, but boy, am I happy whenever anybody plays this on the table. This is such a glow up for the card. I really like the 1 XP version if you're playing Stick to the Plan, but 4 XP is like the easiest ways to make friend on any table. This card is so much value. Faustion's great. I have no doubt we're going to be seeing a bunch of Faustion at the table because we care about curses. Gang Up. I've never played this. Seems good. Seems good. I'll take that in Susie. You can eat the fact that your new item is illicit. Wait, what? What? And the item stays in play? I don't know what you mean by that, but it's really funny. Lucky is okay. This to me is a filler card. I think if you have a 66666 stat line, you don't really need Lucky. I think Lucky is a fine card to play, but it's a card that I'm assuming a lot of decks want to cut. It's actually a really good card when you're on 3 or 4 stats, because then like you don't have to boost, and then like the 20% chance you fail the test, this survives. But the fact that like we want to focus on getting your stats up, I don't know if this is like a home run of a card. Read the Signs is expensive. It's not bad though. It's expensive. I think you have a lot more card throughput. Like you're drawing 2 cards a turn, so like maybe you can play more events. But Read the Signs is pretty expensive, right? Like it's 2 clues for 1 action. As opposed to like playing, you know, something that takes your hand slots that gives you more clues for more actions and stuff like that. Like Deduction. Well, it's a similar idea. 3 of these, 2 Spectral Razor, same idea. Spectral Razor's not bad. Very powerful card. Deduction, Quick Thinking, Vicious Blow. Neat. I think it probably serves you well to focus in one lane. I think you're going to be able to do a bit of fight, and I think you're going to be able to do a bit of book. I think it might be less interesting, but if you focus on one more side of that and like build into it a bit like more narrowly, you might end up with something like, how does this draw? Can I not test draw? I can. Right? Like half your cards are doing 2 different game plans, and that's fine. Flexibility is kind of nice. Ooh, look at the side deck. Deduction's good. Fingerprint Good's good. I don't think you have to rush to Fingerprint 4. That's a lot of experience. I think the original Fingerprint is just good enough. Honed Instinct. This card is not well adored by people other than me, it turns out. It's fine, but it is a luxury. Recharge. Choose a spell, relic asset controlled by investigator location, and reveal a random chaos token. So cards like this that like have a really big payoff, but are inherently a bit like more combo focused, unless there's a very obvious synergy that I'm not thinking of, I would probably avoid in a 50 card deck. Also very specifically, like just eating a card and barfing it up is technically a recharge. This is not a card I'd be excited about. These are the sort of cards that I think you want to be playing. Like Sharp Vision, the one where they're fist fighting, the melee one is also really good, because these are the ways to leverage stats into like more efficiency. And I think this is more what you need. Not boost your stats, but boost your stats with a payoff. We got an Ever Vigilant user. Do you have Stick to the Plan? Cat doesn't have Stick to the Plan. I'm not playing Stick to the Plan because it's like 6 XP and I only have 19. But I would play Ever Vigilant if I could. I'm playing the one that says lose your first turn, install 3 items. And that's fine. Brute Force, thank you. Yeah, I'd play Brute Force in this deck if I want to do a bit of fighting. Like just a bit of fighting, and then like that's what I think you can do. Is like you can build most of your deck into cluing and then just play a bit of fighting cards. Like, oh, you have a Spectral Razor. Oh, you have some Busted Evade card. Oh, you have Vicious Blow. Oh, you have a Brute Force. Like there's a couple ways to mix the 2 together. Sharp Vision's good. Storm of Spirits. I have no idea what we're playing Machinations. I've never played Machinations. I don't know whether you need AoE or not. AoE is never bad. Strong Arm is tricky because you need a melee or ranged asset, and you have some melee or ranged assets, but I wouldn't play 2 card combos in a 50 card deck. I'm probably undervaluing how many cards you draw. Vamp is like funny because you have really good stats in all these lines. I think it's very hard to find a board state in which 2 of these matter. This is my problem with Vamp. I'm playing Alessandra, so I'm like all vamped up. Like I'm playing this card in Alessandro, who's the parlay deck, but it's actually very hard to find a board state in which more than 2 of these matters. I think it's going to be a buttload card draw. Yeah, I think you have more card draw than I think you do. If that's the case, Kat, think of this card. I don't know if you're familiar with this one. Only the first copy of each card in your hand counts towards your maximum hand size. After you draw a copy of a card that's already in your hand, revealed both copies, draw a card. If you have a lot of card draw and a lot of duplicates, this seems like it should work well into your deck. Brute Force looks sick. Yeah, there's a whole cycle of those Anarch. I'm going to call them Anarch cards. They're very, very good. Brute Force, Sharp Vision, and the Evasion one is like kind of mid. I just realized there was an Arkham review. I mean, I think I got to draw a buttload, but also go through a buttload. But you could be drawing more and having more hand size. There's also like, if you want to build into hand size, there's a bunch of yellow, I almost said hands NBN, but there's a bunch of like yellow hand size cards that work together. I haven't played that archetype really. Love that card in any Survivor Fighter, but Silas the most. Yeah, Silas is good. If you pull it back, it doesn't work, but it's Silas. You'll pull it back every once in a while. Vicious Blow is fine. Susie seems really excited. I'm excited just to see how this goes, right? Like, I think this is totally playable. Let's see a card called the Test Draw. So this is our Test Draw. Keeping haste early seems greedy. I don't think we can afford Leo. This is the problem. Is like, I think Leo's pretty expensive, and I don't think the deck has that much money. Like, yeah, you have Drawing Thin, and you have Schaffners, but 4 and 50 seems a bit low. Like, I think because the card draw is so thorough, I would probably just play a bit more money. Some effigy designer has synesthesia for card draw into yellow. I know. I think there's other card games where that exists. I think yellow in Marvel Champions has the most card draw. Don't quote me on that. I think it does. In Lord of the Rings, I think blue is the card draw faction though, but there's no yellow faction. So like, let's see how we play this hand out. Like, we don't need Regurgitation. We'll mulligan that. I think Leo's too expensive. Haste is fine early, but you generally want to combine this with like some basic action that's a bit better, let alone our early stats are bad. So we'd probably shuffle this back. I don't think we want to hold into Machete and Vicious Blow because we're going to have, you know, Nat Cho as a fighter off of turn 1. So we probably just like do full mulligan, which is not bizarre. And then this is a lot better, right? So we'll shuffle this back. I think the Arkham Shuffler is wrong. I've done some tests. I don't think it works the way that you think it does. I think redraw selected. I did a test. This doesn't work the way you want to do. So let's reshuffle selected. So this opening hand, we want to get Drawing Thin down and we can throw whatever test in the Mythos phase. Back, we look at 6, right? This gets us Scroll Secrets, Switchblade. That's all it gets us. That's not bad. And then from there, we're having an okay start. But like with this hand, we have no click compression on anything besides 1 Vicious Blow, the Read the Signs, and the Switchblade. And our stats are really bad. So that's tricky. I'm very excited to play with Susie. Very glad I don't have to play her. Yeah, I'm in the same camp. I'm very, very excited to see it. I'd be excited to build the deck though. But I do think half the fun in Susie is upgrading the deck, which is not what we're exactly going to see. But I think it's going to be really fun to play with Susie as a teammate, let alone to see Susie do this stuff. Krim has never seen the bottom of the deck. Blue is overpresented in card games as the card draw color. Meanwhile, Krim is crying. Just finished Hemlock Vale with Susie. Was a blast. Yo, Cody, how'd it go? I think Hemlock Vale is just absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Cool. Let's try another one. I think Leo's expensive. Solemn Vow, we don't really need early. Quick Thinking is another card that like we don't need early until we power it up. You can keep a Scroll Secrets, it's fine. Matchbox is like, it's kind of a mech card on turn 1. It's fine though. I think Leo's too expensive. But let's try and keep Leo. And then we'll draw 2-1, shuffle back. So here we have Schaffners, which is a good early card. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like some amount of learning from Susie has to be the same sort of learnings you get from Calvin decks. Like I played Calvin a fair bit when Calvin came out. I was like in my testing group, whenever a weird ID comes out, I'm the one who's like, I want to play that. Like you better believe I played Calvin. You better believe I played Lola. And Calvin is like a very similar idea. And Calvin decks were like not that bad that fast because you kind of sped run getting your ability to up. And I think Susie's not going to be that different. Like I think you're going to speed run Susie getting up to 3-3-5-5 by like swallowing your cards pretty quickly. So maybe I'm thinking we're going to spend way too much time too low. I forgot Calvin was zeros. Yeah, Calvin is zeros. We Won was wonderful. The finale for what's it called? For Hemlock Vale is pretty wild. Calvin is better now with the test, 0 stuff in Survivor. Yeah, I believe that. I thought Calvin was very playable back then even. And specifically in like Forgotten Age, we're like, ooh, trauma, a gift. Like that was really fun. When everyone was frustrated, they forgot to bring their blankets and I'm like sleeping on open rocks. dreaming of my husband. Like it's great. It's just getting more and more powerful. You can play from the jump, then go beyond. Calvin also getting in the thick of it. It's like fantastic. Like Calvin's been getting so much support. A lot of the enter cards also made you a bit better at not dying. Excuse me. Yeah. I wonder if you just build a Nova deck and you just play all the busted 0 XP stuff. But I think this looks fun, Cat. I'm excited to see it. What are like the cheapest allies you can play and feel good about? Like, we already have somebody playing Milan, so you can't play Milan. My oddball Gator's Preston. I played Preston too. I like the weird stuff. I played Preston. I played Alessandra. I played Patrice. Patrice is amazing. Finally had Hemlock arrive last week. Yo, good luck out there, Power Guides. It's really refreshing. I was not a big Scarlet Keys fan, and this like came eating lab assistants. For flavor, are you? Oh, you can't play it because you can't identify it. But there's the other like science experiments you have to identify. I should get gingerbread man cookies for a while I play. Just keeps devouring. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna proxy this, I think, at some point. I just hope I can get it like printed from Make playing cards. The art is really good too. They did a good job on this one. Okay. I didn't like TSK's campaign, but it gave me Charlie Kane, so I can't be too mad. Charlie Kane was so much fun. I feel like the investigators from TSK were such an upside of that whole cycle. I feel like it's the opposite of Hemlock Vale. Like, I think the investigators in Hemlock Vale are pretty uninteresting, but the player cards are pretty cool. And then the box is pretty cool. My Susie had Leo and Haste. Getting to take 5 actions when at 6 is incredible. That's what this deck is going to do too. And maybe I'm underselling it. Maybe I am underselling it. Just get to 6 and mash single actions. Yeah, maybe that's fine. I can see it being good. And actually, yeah, that's a cool way to use Matchbox, right? Like this worked for the entire turn. Why not have 6 actions during that turn? Like that's a lot of value for a Matchbox. Very cheap too. Not fast, but very cheap. Just wish Seb was as cool as Charlie. It's just a matter of time. Cat, thanks for sharing. Looking forward to it. I think we're just missing one other deck from the group, and then we're good to go. Okay, what time is it? It's 11:20. I'm getting more and more congested as the evening goes on, so that's probably unpleasant into the microphone, but hey, we rolled the die on that one, I guess. God is able to provide some content during the slow JNet time. Thank you. Trash-or-Busto? Trash-or-Busto Heroku app. Who? Jeff.com maybe? Is there a Heroku app? No. Does anyone know what this is? Gotta call it night soon, but I want to say I've been watching old VODs and want to say I appreciated your critique on some of the art and RWR from like a month back. Oh, hey, cheers, Conrad. It's a part of the game I'm always like very, very excited about. And I'm not sure exactly what I said. I'm glad it landed well. Hopefully it was tasteful as we try to be. But I'm excited that that's feedback that's useful. A lot more of the comments we get end up being more or less, I like this art or I don't like this art. Getting more constructive criticism and comments is welcome. Oh, very cool. Yes. I think it's a hard thing to talk about, Conrad, right? Like I probably said this before. Thank you for listening, Bunkle. I have probably said this before in the stream, but art is a really weird thing. That to me, there's a, I don't like this art, I like this art is something that we often on this channel don't say. And it's strange. It feels like there's like this incongruity that I'll be very clear to say something like, I don't like the design of this card. I think this is bad, right? Like, I think I can say that. But then when it comes to like talking and critiquing about art and then critiquing about, what's it called? Like flavor text and lore and stuff like that. I feel like people find that harder to like, for that to be assailable. But I think we at least maybe raised criticisms or talked about like, you know, silhouetting is like an important thing and like readability. And there's a lot of things that I think can be talked about. So respectful and tasteful. Appreciate Conrad. Glad it landed like that. So for those who don't know, Trash-or-Busto is a website that Jeff put together a long time ago. And it's going to show you 2 cards. I really want to get a Twitch app that we can run this during like countdowns and during streams and stuff. But you're meant to pick which of these cards that you think is stronger. Now you might be wondering, what does stronger mean? And that's as vague as it needs to be. Stronger is stronger. It could be art. Could be formatting. Could be the card itself though, and how the game works, but it could be any of those things. And then you're meant to pick one of these, and we're meant to vote that way. There's technically a list of the strongest cards, all ranks, the strongest ever Netrunner card. I honestly don't know what it is. Astroscript Pilot Program is the strongest corporation card. Temujin Contract is the strongest runner card. The people who play this game have been playing the Netrunner game for a really long time. For those who don't know, this is Astroscript. It for many years didn't have a limit 1 per deck. It was just a 3-2 agenda that scored out other 3-2 agendas, and it went like that. Where's the best place to read Android Netrunner lore? Best place. So it depends what you want, what you mean by Android Netrunner lore. If you say Android Netrunner, I think you mean FFG. If that's the case, there's a bunch of novellas out there and novels. You can read those. There's a hard to find book called The World of Netrunner, or World of Android, I think, that has a bunch of story stuff. Some Wikipedias, actually, fan wikis would like summarize and write down the what's it called? We used to get like every data pack you get every month would have like a story insert. I think there are some wikis that actually collated those. I think that's probably the best cases. If it comes to NSG's non-Android but just Netrunner lore, if you search on their website, there's a tag for story, and then all the short stories are there. Limit 1 per deck is probably not the strongest Netrunner card anymore. No, I wouldn't say it is. There's actually a chance. Yeah, no, it's still probably the strongest limit 1 per deck though in the game. World of Android book rocks. Yeah, I have one. I don't know how hard these are to get. I've never fully read this, which is kind of wild for someone who's obviously like a Netrunner person, because a lot of it's a bit dry. I probably should read through it a bit, but there's like, it's way more words than you thought it would be. It's not like a picture book. There's a lot of words. But every once in a while, if I was like trying to figure out about something for a write-up or a lore thing, I'd reference this. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool if you want to get FFG lore stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of words in there. There's a pin in hash lore and GLC that has all the inserts, I think. Oh, super cool. I didn't know that. That's really, really cool. Only the first 2/3 are actually setting relevant. What's the last third? So what's it going to be? I think for me, this one's a bit obvious. They made an Arkham version of that book recently. Not only did they make an Arkham version, Rohit, but they've been updating it digitally, which is so weird. Like, from my understanding, if you bought the physical hardcover book, I think it's a hardcover book, and you own it, congratulations, you have a book. But they actually go and take the e-version of it that you get from like Amazon or wherever you can buy e-publications. And from my understanding, they've been updating that. So like, here's 4 new investigators that didn't exist at the time of publication, and they've inserted into it. I think that's so strange because the people who have the physical copy don't have that. That's at least from my understanding. I might be mistaken, but from reading online, that's what it looked like. Should I bought it? Well, enjoy your version 1.1 or whatever. Did you see the news? Yeah, I did, Jai. X-Wing and Armada have been discontinued. I don't know if they're going to be posting something on the FFG website page. They posted something on, I think, like Instagram, where they're like, obviously, thank you, but this is over, which is a bummer. Maybe a shout out to Null Signal lore articles, usually during spoiler season. Yeah, Null Signal Games puts out lore articles. They're great. And they're generally categorized. I wish that on the NSG website, and I think it's only a matter of time, that you could go somewhere to this and it'd be like story, and it would just have all their story stuff. Because I don't think it's that easy to find their story stuff. I think you have to do like, I'm not actually sure where you have to go. Blog. That's probably not right. Like, you have to find it. I don't know how you find it, but it should be a tab up there. Free lunch for sure. Congratulations. You fell into my trap. You're looking at a terminal directive card. You might notice something here. This trace 4 that does a core damage, it doesn't care if the trace was successful or not. That's correct. If you ran into executive functioning, it was a 2-1 code gate that just did a core damage. That still doesn't make it better than free lunch, I don't think. Free lunch is a 3-4 with a really annoying subroutine. But if executive functioning, if the trace fired, you got the core damage. We're doing the trace for fun, friends. We're just tracing for fun. We love good templating, yeah. There's videos of me on the internet being upset about this, but there's a bunch of cards. I think all the Trace Corp HB cards in that product did not have if successful. It was really bad. I'm gonna put free lunch on this one. It's pretty close though. Okay, this is a good one. Y'all like recursion? Back in the day when we wanted to play the same event, we didn't play labor rights. We spent 3 clicks to play that same event. This is a good matchup. We used to pay 3 clicks to play the same event from our heap. Modernly, we get to the end of the deck and play Labor Rights and then play it 7 times, but it was actually a very important card, same old thing, for many, many reasons. Now, Black Orchestra is a code gate breaker. It is in some ways busted inherently because it installs itself from the bin, but it was also very easy to like make big code gates be annoying to Black Orchestra. Like breaking Fairchild for 9 credits was relevant. This is not very obvious because that event was StimHack, because that event was Account Siphon, because that event was Ashen Epilogue, because that event was Account Siphon again, and the 3rd time, and blackmail, and then blackmail again, and blackmail a 3rd time. NetrunnerdB says there's a UFAC about executive functioning, saying to treat it as though it were written correctly. Oh, yeah. FFG will go on record to say, please just do this the right way. Which, like, power to them and all that. I miss blackmail? That's messed up. Power tap synergy? Yeah, just let it fire. Second best code gate breaker versus second best event recursion ever? I think this is like the 3rd best event recursion ever, but honestly, that's hard call to make. I don't know what to say here. These actually might be equally powerful cards. I think they both warp the meta. I'm gonna hit ties. I don't want to same old thing amped up APOC. It was genuinely a line. You would do same old thing. Amped up is running hot back in the day, and then you would like run all 3 central servers. Same old thing. I think you're right. It's not that far from a tie. But this card is much more important for everyone. I think Blorch, because you couldn't play Inject without Blorch. You did. We played Inject before Bin Breakers existed. Real talk, we played Inject before Bin Breakers existed. Like Noise with Inject. You played like clone shifts, but you did actually play Inject with real breakers. Same old thing is of its time. All right. 2 cards that we kind of have to read. Biased reporting, you choose a type, and then let me see if I can know the numbers. The runner can trash any amount of cards of that type, they gain 1 credit, and otherwise you get paid 2 credits per card of that type. So in short, if you said resource and they had 4 resources, you got, what is it, 6 credits? I think it costs $2. Yeah, it costs $2. But it was technically a card that gives your opponent a choice. Honestly, biased reporting is slightly slept on. I think since then, NBN operation economy has gotten a bit better. We have a better options with YDL and planogram that you don't actually need to play it. But there's a lot of board states in where trashing one of your cards was not a thing you could do, really. It didn't make sense. So you would probably gain 4 credits. Now, Vasilisa is actually pretty good. The problem right now is NBN Ice, specifically in Reality Plus, is just totally messed up. But having a relatively annoying 2-cost sentry is like kind of okay. I do think Jua in the modern meta is actually a bit better of a slot, but like this is an annoying ability. Like I don't know, play this in PE or something. If Blorch was an RWR, Afshar would be a lot more popular. Oh my god, yeah, Afshar was a real big problem. I think this one's hard. It's like Vasilisa sees 0 play, biased reporting sees less than 0 play. One of them is just an okay econ card. The other one's like an annoying low cost code sentry. That's like incredibly forgettable in the NBN card pool. Do you call Vasilisa Lisa? That's cute. I played Biased every once in a while, but not since YDL came out. Yeah. Or like a non-equivalent exchange. Like NBN has got a lot more operation economy since then. Vasilisa art is S tier. Yeah, it's really good. It's very good balance sheet art. I think I said this on stream and I wasn't sure of it and I looked it up and I can confirm that I'm pretty sure we're not going to see a lot more balance sheet art because balance sheet is now an art director at FFG, which like that's sick. That's really cool for balance sheet. It's a bummer for Netrunner. But balance sheet has been doing FFG art, even Netrunner art and other art like Keyforge back in the day for a really long time. So it looks like now they're now integrated. It does something if you forget it exists. Vasilisa has fringe uses. All the Pravdivos players are like, come on, please. Yeah, you can now forget this card exists. Non-equivalent feels like an ID. It's so weird because like we saw a bunch of NBN cards that had that same text on it, like Unsmiling Sarievna, the Kleptic, whatever the one's name is, and then the other, and non-equivalent that seemed like they had an NBN ID that cared about it. Okay, 2 Wayland matchups. Mr. Stone. Whenever the runner takes 1 or more tags, do a meat damage. 2 trash, 2 to res, 4 influence, or the board, the Wayland executive that I was talking about this with my brother, I think last weekend. This is very cool Wayland theming that there's nobody there. It's just a bunch of shadowy figures and projections. And it causes a deck called the Oscars, which is very important. I legit don't know he was at FFG now. I think it's recent, Conrad. I think it was this year. I know that he wasn't available for freelance work. I think that's exactly it. Does anybody know what the Oscars is? I probably have said this on the channel recently at some point. The Oscars, 2015 by someone named Zabauermeister, 126 likes. Mind you, we were at a different scale back then in 2015. This deck is not like other decks. I'm sure you've seen corp decks before that boast about the necessity that you must possess a particularly high degree of bravery in order to properly pilot them. You've seen decks that require a knowledge of Yomi and bind games to be their truly terrifying selves. This is not one of those decks. This deck requires something different, a little thing called acting. You heard me right. This deck is played in 3 parts or 3 acts. Buckle up, I'm gonna read all this. Act 1, the pledge. This is really well written. During this part of the game, you mostly play things by the book. Mind you, this was a Jinteki PE deck. If you're not familiar, this is what Personal Evolution looked like all the way back in the 2012 core set. And we're running 17 agendas. All of them are 1-pointers besides the 1 Philotic Entanglement, which is a very important 3-2 agenda that would do a massive amount of damage. Jinteki, if I'm not mistaken, was the first limit 1 per deck faction getter with Philotic. And Philotic Entanglement was a powerful card, but also super toxic, but very powerful. During this part of the game, you mostly play things by the book. You motion some cards, you install some ice. The runner should not notice anything strange is going on, except for maybe seeing a power shutdown or a copy of Aggressive Negotiation. I don't know what this card does. I think only play this if you scored an agenda this turn, search R&D for a card, add it to HQ, shuffle R&D. As a newer player to Netrunner, you might be saying, whoa, these cards are kind of like the new cards. And that's actually by design. This card saw no play, and then NSG was like, that's a cool Wayland idea. Why don't we put Malapert Data Vault? And such is the new versions of cards that actually do see play. But this is potentially a Malapert Data Vault, as much as you can get any card. They probably chuckled to themselves knowingly or chide you for not spending your influence on more worthwhile resources. Sometime during this act, you want to score an agenda and use Aggressive Negotiation to search for the board, or Power Shutdown if you're missing it. Aggressive Negotiation is the key here because you don't have to show the card you search for. It's a secret. Once you have a reasonable number of credits, somewhere between 4 and 9 is the correct number, I think. It's a pretty low threshold. The board and Power Shutdown in your hand, maybe a Jackson on the table, read Spin Doctor. It's time to move on to the second act. Act 2, the turn. This act is called the turn because it is only 1 turn long. It goes like this. Click 1, install the board, maybe behind some ice, maybe not. The key here to do it confidently and believe with all your heart that you are not installing the board, but are in fact installing a Jackson Howard. This is crucial. Click 2, power shut down your entire deck. This is a funny sentence. For those who don't know, this is a really powerful card back in the day that saw play with no legitimate uses besides bizarre combos. Power Shutdown can only be played after the runner made a successful run, or not even a successful run, apparently a run. Trash any number of cards from the top of R&D. The runner trashes an installed program or piece of hardware with an install cost equal to or less than the number of cards you trash this way. That's a cool ability. In theory, you can use this to like hunt down programs or hardware as much as the runner has a lot of choice into this. They just trash their cheapest thing. So a lot of times you would like keep a leech around. It was called a data sucker back then, and just trash that. And then you could protect your programs from being shut down. This is actually a really cool cost. And I thought we would see more cards like this when Nuvum was announced. Cards that like use the top of your deck as a resource. We didn't see that many of them, but I thought this is something we'd revisit. Now, the thing is, for Power Shutdown, it saw no legitimate play the way that it was intended to do, but instead became a very busted card. Because it turns out what you can do with Power Shutdown is choose X to be your entire deck. And as long as you had something on the table like a Spin Doctor, it was a Jackson Howard back then you could just shuffle 2 cards or 3 cards back then to be your entire deck. And having a deck of 3 cards and knowing exactly what they are lets you set up some ridiculous combos. So these were Power Shutdown combo decks. Another card that was used heavily was Accelerated Diagnostics. But Power Shutdown was actually not used as like a Wayland, I burnt your breaker. It was actually used as I'm going to destroy my whole deck to set up a combo, which I do not know in playtesting at FFG if that ever showed up or whether that was a neat wrinkle that kind of got out of control as cards got into the hands of the people. But that's what we're doing. We're Power Shutdowning our entire deck. Do it confidently, brazenly even. Act like there is no way that this could ever be a bad idea because you are about to shuffle some cards back in with that Jackson you just installed, and then you're going to win the game. That's exactly it. You were going to shuffle the 3 cards back in and set up some combo. During the paid ability window between clicks 2 and 3, wait for 15 seconds. Accidentally count to 15 in your head and look a little confused for the first half and worried for the second. After 15 seconds, ask your opponent to confirm how many credits they have. After they answer, say, fuck. Click 3, say, damn it, I messed up, and take a credit. So in theory, you're meant to blow up your whole deck and then mess up the combo that you're meant to do and then say, ah, crap, and then just take a credit. Very cool. The prestige, you are not out of the woods yet. This is probably the hardest part and your hands are shaking. It's the runner's turn now, and they're about to give you some notes on your acting ability. Do your best to look dejected while they try to figure out what you were trying to do. The key here is that there's probably no possible combination of cards that you could have shuffled into your deck with Jackson that would have won you the game. But you need them to believe that you had something in mind, and that would have worked if you had only been a little better at math. There are 2 possible outcomes here, one easier than the other. If the runner takes a short route and says, I'll run archives, you'll just have to sigh and say access, and after they confirm, you res the board and watch the fireworks. So this is the idea, is that you pretend you've messed up, you put all your deck into your archives, which very importantly is probably around 14 to 13 agendas, and then they just say, okay, I'm just going to run archives and win. Now the big thing is personal evolution, of course, is anytime that you steal an agenda, they take a damage. And that's where the text on the board comes in. It says agendas are worth 1 fewer point. So all those 1-pointers they think they're going to win by stealing, a lot of them are just going to do 1 damage apiece. So they effectively run archives and take 14 net damage and die on the spot. That is the only use case of the board that anyone has ever seen, and it made its way into this deck, which has been a known quantity, kind of a meme, the Oscars deck, which is really funny because as soon as it gets published, it never works. I don't think I've ever Oscars'd someone because you can't, but it highlights one of my favorite parts about Netrunner, which is that sort of like the acting, the prestige, the bluffing is so tenable. Kind of a meme? Yeah, kind of a meme. This probably won a game somewhere, but it's just so hilarious. And it's also like totally beatable, but like not running archives is technically the right play. Just don't run archives. It doesn't make any sense. Also, like just run the board and then they lose the game 2 times over. Like it's not very, very great. What is the plan 2? If they say I take 4 credits, go ahead. Use the Jackson you hopefully have on the table to shuffle some Jackson and whatever else is back in. Basically pretend that you're going to draw the game out as much as possible and try to goad them into making the run. If the runner doesn't die, you weren't convincing enough, or they found your deck list before you did. Have fun playing the only deck in the history of customizable card games to require you to convince your opponent that you could have done the impossible if you only thought about it a bit more carefully. This is great. Anyways, this is a known archetype for players who've been playing for a long time called the Oscars. The board was the worst of the executives, the most interesting thematically, arguably, but the worst of the executives by a mile because this text does not matter at all. The whole archetype of like Wayland getting a lot of 1-pointers has kind of been around for a long time. Argus Security was like the Thule equivalent of Wayland. Whenever the runner steals an agenda, they either take a tag or suffer 2 meat damage. And Argus was actually incredibly competitive for not a very short window. There was a while where Argus was like the best Wayland deck. And it's a fun deck because it's genuinely just fun, kind of for both players. Because there's choices that matter. You're building board states, you're rushing out. It's really cool. But Argus decks generally didn't play as many 1-pointers as possible to make that ability as relevant as possible. Just like not a lot of Thule decks are running as many 1-pointers as possible. I think that is technically more tenable because core damage is a bit more easy to leverage into a win condition somehow. But yeah, the Argus 1-pointer meme deck did not actually ever work out. You played Atlases and you just went fast. Flashbang. Argus is better than Thule 100%. I love the idea behind the deck. It relies so heavily on angle shooting, cannot even put into words. It's technically not angle shooting, right? I guess it is. I guess it is. Anyways, I'm not even going to talk about it. The board's the best card ever. Okay. Bloodletter. The runner must either trash 1 program or trash the top 2 cards of their stack. Sentry Destroyer 3 to 4 is not a bad ratio, but this card can have no relevant ability. You would always trash the top 2 cards of your stack. Mind you, this came alongside the Wayland ability that said once per turn when a card is trashed, remove it from the game. Not like your criminal is going to reinstall the card. But this card saw next to no play. Taurus, on the other hand, was a 5/5 Sentry. Those are pretty big numbers. Trace 2. there was this whole like line of these astrological ice that had these traces that if successful, they would did something. But even if you just boosted this, so functionally made it an 8 cost res, because you have to res for 5, boost 5 and 3 into the trace, you would still trash a piece of hardware. So you'd probably trash 2 pieces of hardware. Taurus technically saw some amount of play as a way, specifically in Wayland meat damage decks, to potentially threaten some of the very popular hardware that existed to be able to dodge meat damage. The big one back in the day was Plascrete Carapace, and this card sometimes saw play because if the runner bumbled into it, you could trash a Plascrete Carapace, which was how you didn't die to meat damage. I don't know where it is, but I 100% remember that some big tournament was lost when somebody rezzed the Taurus or trace into the Taurus. I couldn't tell you what, maybe someone who's watching this will remember, but I remember there being one prestigious tournament in which the Greed and Taurus interacted disfavorably and cost the corporation the game. I might be misremembering that because it's probably 6 to 7 years ago, but I remember Taurus costing someone a game. Fave tech card of mine? Yeah. Argus was definitely a lot more proactive than Thule because your tempo didn't stick forever. Yeah, you were trying to close the game out. Thule often doesn't try to close the game out. I maybe played Bloodletter in a bad Proto Potatoes. Oh, that's really rough. But they're gonna blank your sentries, so why splash a sentry? Anyways, technically Taurus did something. It's not very good though. But such as okay. So here we have Solomir's pet card, and a card that I've gone on record to say is entirely cracked. Sure cost plenty of people games in the deck building phase. Night Dancer. There's streams on the channel titled Night Dancer because I was thinking to myself, wait a second. This thing's amazing. If the runner face checkers into a Night Dancer when you're playing Wayland Fast Advance, you've got a 5-click turn. You can do whatever you want. And the biggest problem with Night Dancer, besides the fact that it was really expensive, was that back then, the decoder that everyone was playing was Black Orchestra, which we just saw a couple slides ago, which broke Night Dancer for 3 credits. Modernly, if you had to face check into a Night Dancer, it's actually a bit more expensive to break. This is technically a legal card right now. How good is that ability? It's fine. Best art on worst card. It's a very good art. Who did this? I can't read it. It says Galen Dara, maybe? Witchcraft to the nascent, beauty to the wise. It might be one of the only cards that references witchcraft, which is cool. It turns out it's really bad. Technoco is potentially a prison card. It's just the numbers on it are not favorable. Oh, she did Brawn on Cell. For real, Galen Dara. Oh, very cool. We have MIC at the same cost, so not surprises in seeing play. Yeah, but does MIC end the run? Yeah, does it win you the game? Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. But for what it's worth, it's like very similar numbers to MIC, and MIC is a pain in the ass. The problem is like you need to have the face check on Night Dancer line up with what you have in hand, and that's a lot harder as opposed to MIC, which its face check is relevant on all board states. Honestly, Technico is probably the better card here. What Night Dancer has never, ever seen competitive play. I can attest Technico is pretty annoying for Lou Mulch. Oh yeah, there's some matchups that's really annoying. Specifically Anarch. You play a lot of virtuals in that. It's just 2-2, right? I think we were seeing Solomir play this as his pet card in Thunderbolt. Egret, Devil Charm. Okay, one of them has design concerns for the balance of the game. The other one is Egret. Egret's cool. I think we're going to see something like Egret in the future. I think having a card like this is very shaper. Back in the day, we used to have, what's it called? Tinkering. It was an event. And Devil Charm is just a very powerful card that's kind of messed up. This is a good one. Oh, man. This is like a Netrunner card game for boomers. 24/7 news cycle. As an additional cost to play 24/7 news cycle, forfeit an agenda, resolve the when scored ability on agenda in your score you're at. Just to let you know when this card rotated, it was banned. Now on the other side, we have Wraparound. Probably the most consistently good barrier ever printed in NBN. Besides Gold Farmer, which is banned, I guess, which wasn't there forever. Wraparound has been relevant since day one. There were a lot of metas where Wraparound was actually a very powerful card that you played around. Vanilla, no, Wraparound was more, well, it's been around longer than Vanilla and it was more impactful than Vanilla. There's a lot of NBN decks that if you could play Vanilla, you'd play Wraparound. And that's because 7 strength would really mess up AI builds, and AI builds were not uncommon for many parts of the game. I think modernly with Ping, a bit of a decision, but Wraparound still sees non-inconsistent play modernly. The problem is 24/7 news cycle is broken. But 24/7 news cycle is only broken attached to the agendas that you can skip the when scored ability. Things like take 2 tags are very problematic. IP block? Oh yeah, IP block's really good too. I forgot about IP block. IP block is Busto. Yeah, the numbers on IP block don't make any sense. For Metropole Grid math, then IP block should easily cost 3 to 4 credits. Like, IP block is just nonsense. Yeah, Rep Run's still good today. There was a period when IP block was 1-2 of every deck, yes. And Amaku is very popular. You'd rather run IP block than wrap around that matchup, that's for sure. But it's because it also has a face check. Like, imagine that. It has a face check. Wayland, the barrier faction, NBN. I'm going to do the card that was banned. Breaking news with 24/7 takes me back to some dark times. I don't think it was that long. Those times were very dark, but at least it felt like it wasn't very long. But maybe it's because the games were so short. Hard to say. Cortez Chip, the first card that ever made me excited about Geist, and an Autoscriptor, a card that a lot of people don't know the text on. I'm pretty sure it gives you a click to install a program until you make an unsuccessful run. I've barreled the camera the whole time. I think it says the first time it's turn you install a program, get a click back and make it unsuccessful run, trash Autoscriptor. It probably costs 2. Costs 3. It practically runs itself unless you're in a pinch. Nice. This card, even in the decks that were running a lot of programs, and that's a problem, is like installing programs is not really a criminal thing. I think there's decks where for 3 influences is way too expensive to slap into Shaper when you had other click compression for Haley. But this effect on its own, barring the unsuccessful run clause, which obviously makes it very rough, is a very playable idea for a card in a lot of factions. Arasana, mind you, is basically this text. It's not costing 3 credits, it's not costing 3 influence, but it is a very cool idea for a card. It was just very much in the wrong faction by a mile. Okay, but World Tree? Yeah, I know. You need 2 agendas to make use of 24/7? Yes, you need 1 to score, 1 to forfeit. But there was all these archetypes that would like score of what's it called? Breaking news, which is a 2-1, score breaking news, which is a 2-1, and then just kill you with a combo on like the next 2 turns. I've seen Autoscriptor a couple times. I've never seen Cortez. I've never seen either of these. Cortez Chip was never worth it. By the time that Geist decks were really playable, I'm pretty sure. Hey, do we still have that guy in the format that says increase the cost of ice by 1? Hernando, is Mr. Cortez still in the game? Because we used to have Hernando Cortez, who's not in the game, and he was actually worth playing. Because he was just a flat aura, and a lot of corporations back then had more than 10 credits. Because back in the day, we actually had IPO. So every corporation had pretty strong burst economy that would consistently get them over 10 credits. IPO, mind you, was a 3 of, and most decks that were hedge fund was a 3 of, unless they were playing assets. So a lot of decks, especially Jinteki decks that would have a lot of very expensive ice with a lot of subroutines. Like imagine spending 11 credits to Resident Anansi. CTZ's still in the game. I would use Autoscriptors in decks even today. I don't know if I would. I'm not sure in what faction I would. I definitely wouldn't in Criminal. I think you could see an argument to use it in like Shaper, obviously. I don't think you would in Anarch. But it's on no play. Autoscriptor better than Cortez. I don't think that's... Yeah, I don't think you could argue any other way. Cortez Chip is just not... Doesn't... Like, that effect doesn't do enough on enough board states. What do you think of Reina? No. No. Cortez himself. Excuse me. All right. The Equalizer. A trap that can win the game that costs no credits. Or a 4-2 agenda that Dan Dargenio was like, come on, I already made Deuces Wild. I don't have to do another good one. And they were like, yeah, that's a good point. And then TPR exists. Culoop is much more efficient. Not even more efficient. It's more fun. Culoop is more fun. And it wants you to interact. Autoscriptor is an anti-interaction. But it's not from hand. It's like definitely checkist. But I feel like it's an uphill fight for both of them. TPR judge calls, though. I don't think you need to get judge call. You don't need to get a judge call for TPR, do you? Conrad, thanks for dropping by. I don't think TPR over checkist. I think TPR can do something in Atea. I think checkist is always going to be relevant. I think there were MT decks that were playing TPR as a 4-credit Nisei. There's a chance, but TPR came out after Atea came out. Boarding Control had already come out at the same time as TPR, and I do not think they were playing Boarding Control and TPR. I don't think it was in the good Atea decks, but I might be misremembering. Excuse me if I'm disgusting. Atea likes TPR sometimes, but not all the Atea decks. I don't know. It's like obviously checkist sees no play, but I think I'm more scared of checkist than TPR. I'll give it to TPR because like it's checkist. It's a banned card. You gotta give it to the banned card. Okay. We found an opponent that you could actually maybe beat. Epiphany is Epiphany. We know what Epiphany does, I hope. And then whenever the runner breaks all subroutines on a piece of ice protecting the server, their maximum hand size is reduced by 1 until the beginning of your next turn. Our friend Patrick used to build Valley Grid decks. Because the idea is if you put enough ice on the server, they can't run it. Because they'll have negative hand size. And you lose to negative hand size. Chekist got second at Worlds. That's what I'm thinking. Like, Chekist is a good card. I regret what we just did in the last one. Yeah, Chekist is definitely the play. Second at Worlds for real. Yeah, I guess it was Table Carnage, huh? I also build Valley Grid decks, the OG. Dr. Vinch and Keeling, yeah, technically. Now they had to interact, so it was obviously not very good. There was another grid that allowed you to like reposition ice or like move ice and make people re-encounter ice, if I'm not mistaken. That one saw a bit more play. Ginger Valley Game Loss Simulator, yeah, I know, but it's 2 regions too. They also have to break all the subroutines, so you specifically need a subsection of ice in which they have to break all of them. So like a single end the run, sure, but if it was like, immediately you have to break all of Anansi, but if you can let one a teeny fire, you can let one a teeny fire. Secure and Protect got first at Worlds and not calling that a good card. It's probably better than whatever the other one was. I combo this with Edge of the World and Fenris and all sorts of other core damage cards. Yeah, that was the sort of like HB decks that would actually care about this. You almost never saw this in Jinteki, I don't think. But like HB decks that had only end the run subroutines and like annoying stuff. That's why it's game loss. I'm going to say Epiphany is stronger, but I think this is more of an inspiring card. All right, we'll do one more, maybe 2 more. Let's see if they're good. Oh, that's a good one. Poison Vial, which is only going to get better. And then one of the most busted unfun economy cards in the whole game. So E3 feedback implants, but limited. And then again, one of the most busted unfun econ cards in the whole game. One of them costs 2, one of them costs 0. One of them is like an E3 feedback implants, but then you don't have to pay any money, but it doesn't last forever. And then the other one's one of the most busted unfun econ cards in the whole game. Valley Grid had really good art. 0 cost cards are always worth considering, especially when they're really good econ cards. Aeneas did win Worlds. I couldn't even tell you in which list Aeneas won Worlds. I didn't know Aeneas won Worlds. But think of it, one of these is an E3 feedback implants that doesn't cost money. The other one, I'll stick to the bit. Interns, SFT, whoa. These are both very cool cards. Interns is like very 2015. This is what a recursion card on tempo used to be. And you used to use it. So on turn 15, you can reinstall your Caprice Nisei that they trashed. And win in replicating perfection. Was it your whole turn? Yes. But was that an important turn? Yes. Successful Field Test is also, I think, a banned card at some point. I feel like Successful Field Test was banned, but I have no proof of that. When you score it, install any number of cards from HQ, ignoring all costs. The issue is when you had a hand size like Cerebral Imaging, where you had like 15 cards, that's a problem. You could also just draw a lot of cards with Estelle Moon, which is one of the most powerful cards of all time, and then just dump them all out in a single turn. SFT was messed up. Interns was a workhorse. SFT was messed up. The other one was a workhorse. I don't think it was banned. Was it TD card though? Yeah. I'm not sure if it was banned. I don't think it was. But it was like a CI card. It was an ASA group card. There's a lot of decks that would play SFT. We have nothing like SFT right now, which is weird. It was never banned nor restricted. Okay, it felt like it was. Interns the fair recursion, and then they went and implemented Friends and Restore. I think Restore is messed up. I think Friends is obviously messed up. For what it's worth, like, I dunk, and I don't like corporate hospitality, but like, it shows you the difference. Like, making it a tempo positive recursion card in some ways makes it worse because it's clumsier. I just think at the end of the day, I don't want someone to reinstall the same Rashida I trashed last turn. That's my own problem. But it's weird how interns and like, they seem different, and one's not necessarily better than the other. I think SFT is a busted card. If this card fires on most board states, you can lose the game when they install 5 cards clicklessly. I think you would play this if you could. In ASA group, you could play this. You would just structure your turn differently. Like, you would play SFT the same way that you should be playing Midnight 3 Arcology, which is like, you score it, But before you score it, you play what's it called, fully operational, and then you draw 6 cards, and then you score SFT, and then you install 5 cards on the turn. That's how you should play SFT. The same way with Midnight 3, you should score it on the same turn that you draw up already a lot with fully op, which not a lot of people do. It's basically a 4-2 luminal. Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. It's more positional because it cares about your hand, but as long as you score this out, like fire Rashida, then score it out, or like there's a lot of ways to make this like absurdly busted. Was SFT legal at the same time the HB identity let you have a bunch of cards in hand? Yes, Luis. There's a bunch of combo decks that would score an SFT and then use that to win the rest of the game. Definitely this one. Will-o'-the-Wisp was the first neutral upgrade ever, and it actually had text that was always relevant against some of the best decks in the format, but it never mattered. Because it doesn't trash programs, it takes icebreakers and puts them on the bottom of the deck. And funny enough, against the world of Paperclip and MK Ultra and Black Orchestra, all these Anarch breakers that installed them from the bin, Will-o'-the-Wisp's bottoming ability was actually the worst place to put a breaker. And it saw no play. It arguably should have seen some play, it saw no play. I remember the Will-o'-the-Wisp panic, me too, yeah. I remember seeing this and be like, this is busted, it's neutral, this is so annoying. Like, take a criminal and put the breaker on the bottom of the deck. If they don't have their special orders, like, it's a problem. Cronus did actually see play, both in poisonous decks and in poisonous decks. You mostly saw it in poisonous decks. I played it in an HB Fast Advance deck that I brought to the finals of Canadian Nationals as my, like, weird 3-1 slot, and I would just score it because recursion was so prevalent on the runner side of the card pool. Did I just catch the little guy? I did catch the little fly. I can't believe I did that. I did it twice. It was worth playing. Like, I think you can see footage of me playing against like Shoeflower back in 2016, like bioticking labor at a Cronus project, because against most runners that played same old thing and Anarchs, it was worth scoring out. It was a meta call, but it was actually worth tempoing out a 3-1. What is a poisonous deck? Attrition based decks. Some attrition grinder decks would do this, and they would use this to remove from game certain cards, I think. Yeah, Cronus was a response to the Levier, right? Like, it's like if every deck is playing, or more decks are playing Ashen Epilogue, you wanted an ability like this. But like, should you ever have that many cards removed from game? Because you're just making a second graveyard. I think NSG doesn't want to have that many cards remove themselves from the game. I want to build a runner identity that RFGs things, because it feels like a real downside in a world of Ashen Epilogue. When everyone has access to Ashen Epilogue, and Ashen Epilogue is not unilaterally playable, like, remove from game is a real cost in some decks. And I wanted to see that explored, as annoying as that is. 4 credits? Yeah, it's 4 credits. But if it buys you a window, that's really good. I don't even hate recursion, but it's just an awful card they essentially entirely floated by Siphon. Yes. Yeah. It's like Cronus, probably. This card had the potential, but it never got meta relevance. It's a bit of a bummer. I only got salty when Brando Cronus to my max out of CTM. Yes, max is also super prevalent, so Cronus was just worth it. Like, you just tempo Cronus out to be like, I just got rid of 20 cards. I don't care what they are, you just have 20 fewer cards. RFG zone on JNet gets pretty full between Gotcha, Ashen, and Laborites already. I think the RFG zone on JNet, I wish you could make it bigger. Like, there are problems with it for sure. 2 more? This is kind of more fun than I thought it'd be. Oh, fuck. Oh, it's here. Oh, speak of the devil. Levy AR Lab Access is exactly the text on Ashen, except it didn't cost influence for one of the factions, and it cost 3 influence, but it didn't do any of the text on Ashen. It doesn't matter. Can I RFG my opponent? No, I don't think there's any way to do it. Citadel, though, is like one of the most busted tag cards because it removes tags for free, and it's also meat damage prevention. There's no way that's not going to be Larla, because it's Larla. But Citadel Sanctuary is a really good card. Like, there's not a lot of cards Citadel Sanctuary would lose to. It's a suplex right through the table. Yeah, anyways, for those who don't know, Ashen used to exist in a much more, like, I would say clean version, just like it had half the text on it. And there was a lot of Shaper decks that would run 2 of these. Anarch decks would run them. Criminal never really ran Larla because you didn't need to. But yeah, it's Larla. Citadel is better because Levy's rivaled by Ashen these days. Citadel is unrivaled as a tag clearing and kill tech ability. The thing is weird is when it says stronger, I don't think stronger today. I think it means stronger in general. Like, I don't think it means, to me, it doesn't mean, at least. And that's the cool ambiguity of this website. It doesn't mean which one of these cards would I rather put into a deck. Because I agree. I think the text on Ashen is largely needless. It's not relevant to most boards. In fact, it's actually just makes it stronger in some ways because you just remove 5 cards, so you're more consistently knowing what you're going to draw into. So maybe you don't play Levy, maybe you do in Shaper. You save 2 influence. But I think overall Larla is a much stronger card on the meta. Geist did? Oh yeah, you're right. Geist decks would play 1. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we used to play 1 in Geist. Going to Smurf is Denny Keekins. What does that mean, Dario? Oh, I get it. Never mind. I missed what Kat said. Yeah. Not getting on that joke. Rivaled by its near print isn't really saying much? No. And also, yeah, Larlo is played in way more decks than Ashen is now. But that's because back in the day we had things like Same Old Thing. Like it was much easier to play it because you could just discard it. And then you'd know you'd play it later in the game. It was a much easier to play card. Okay, last one. Onto a narrow 4-2, but one of the coolest scaling agendas that NSG put out in that era. Regulatory capture is also pretty cool. And then Red Herrings, which has been around since the 2012 core set. I'd argue that's pretty fair text on it. Red Herrings has never been meta relevant, which is bizarre. It's Bologna. It's Bologna. And nobody cares. What's with that? What's with that? Why do we not care about this? It's Bologna. Obviously, you can trash it and run back. But it's 1 credit Bologna. You just trash it? Sure. You just trash Bologna. Kidding. I'm kidding. The Red Herrings was never meta relevant. Maybe in like core set. I don't know. I didn't play in 2012. Played in 2013. It's like an optional amaze. Soft and centrals and you run back. Red Herrings has always been like my best card anytime I draft. Anytime I draft and I see a Red Herrings, I take it. Snap pick it. Because it's one of the best defensive upgrades in draft. Because nobody has 5 credits in draft. Red Herrings had gained 5 credits when you score an agenda from the server and might have seen play. Yeah, but then you can put it on an Astro or whatever. It was irrelevant because everyone was on Fastrobiotics. Yeah, that's probably it. You didn't score agendas in servers. It's just like such a good ability. Like you could have seen this being directly reprinted in System Gateway. Like it feels like a System Gateway card. It's very easy. 5 credits. It would have a persistent card effect or something. Technically, it does have persistent. It just didn't have that keyword in 2017 when this was reprinted. Crap. I don't know what to do. It's bad on centrals. Not if you install. Yeah, it's bad on centrals. That's not wrong. Most cards are bad on centrals, though. I don't want to give it to Onto. I just kind of want to give it to my friend Fish over here. You can say that's wrong. Okay, I said I was going to stop once the matchups got bad, and this matchup got really bad in a good way. Security Subcontract is a reprint of an original Netrunner card. I don't think the original Netrunner card was very good, but I don't know about it. It was also a one of. You had to buy 3 core sets to get your full playset of Security Subcontract. Now, since then, we've got things like Sphegator Excavator and Sphegator Excavator. Would you play this in OP if you could? No, you'd play Sphegator Excavator. And the other side, you got one of my pet IDs, Nisei Division, that said, get slightly more money when you play side games, which is actually important because side games are kind of expensive. Yeah, it's definitely not Security Subcontract, but we'd actually think about this. The thing is, it was never, ever Security Subcontract, not even for a minute. And it was never Nisei Division, but at least it did something. 0 is a full playset of Security Subcontract? It was. People bought their extra core sets and then they sold this to nobody. Would you play it over Sphegator? No. I don't know if it's that simple because you always get a trigger the turn you install it. I think you'd play Extract, and then from that point forward, you wouldn't. I don't think you'd play this in OP, would you? 0 to 3 res is good. 4 cards in a trash is fine. Maybe you would. I don't think you would, though. I just think you don't have slots for it, and Extract is good enough. It's not like Reg OP is playing Sphe. Like, only Acid OP is playing Sphe. Hey, Pod, how's it going? I like Nisei Division. I actually have a lot of old Nisei Division decks that I really enjoyed. And just, like, that was the problem with, like, Psy-Ice. It's like, cool, your side game fires. Can you afford to play 2 every time? No, you can't. And then it actually changes the math, where it's like, are they going to play 0 to make it a pop-up window, or are they going to pay 2 to be a real annoying about it? And I like that it actually functionally changes the game. Yeah, maybe it is borderline playable. Maybe it actually is borderline playable in OP. Yeah, barely playable in only OP. Sphe is better than Security. Don't overthink. Oh, no, for sure it is. But, like, I think there's a lot of decks that would not play Sphe that would consider Subcontract if they were, like, ice-based options. Also, transaction asset. I don't think that happened a lot. But mind you, subtyping in the core set was like wacky. Like you had connection upgrades for corporations. Imagine it was +5. Yeah. Yeah. Build a Better World said transaction operations, which is a bummer. I'm giving it to next generation Nisei division, but like, I don't know. Ah, shit. Jeff, do you make these good matches or are they full random? Like, does the text of the thing actually pick 2 cards of similar level? Because it looks like we haven't got blowouts. Like, both of these are incredibly messed up cards. I'm gonna give it to Breaking News because it's Breaking News, but like, that was a good run back. I think Breaking News is a better agenda than AstroScript. I think Breaking News should be above AstroScript. Imagine we knew what we knew about Netrunner when Breaking News was legal. Imagine you installed a Breaking News and on your turn you did like Seamless and then you did meat damage. Like nobody scored, everyone fast advanced Breaking News. There was like no deck that would like slow roll a Breaking News because we were so messed up. We saw 2-1 and we're like, guess I'm going to score that off of my Sand. It was like, why didn't you just put that in a remote server and wait? What the heck? It tries to grab cards close to each other. Okay, that makes way more sense. Yeah, I think it does. I don't think it gives an ELO rating. I think it just gives the ranking rating. Jeff would know. Consider that when we had throwback, Breaking News was picked a hell of a lot more than Astro to unrotate. Oh, yeah. No, I think Breaking News is a more impactful card than Astro. The problem is it's relevant on the tag punishment. And the tag punishment in the core set wasn't as messed up. Like you need to do Breaking News into 2 Scorched Earth, and that's probably a bit more inconsistent. You used to install Advance It. You did it with Posted Bounty. I think that's what the designers wanted you to do, and nobody did that. And the other is a Tempo Pause device, a Snap Res. Yeah, but like it's Breaking News. Okay, last one. Not even close. Not even close. Jeff, the system broke. Not even. It's funny how they brought Brian and Cooler Brian or whatever. Not even close. Not even close. Jeff, it's breaking. Not even close. Not even close. Fairtrade 1 should have been better than it was. But Cold Set server did see play. Yeah, 24/7, the Breaking News would just kill you score area if you needed it. Chill in your score area? Yeah. But like that took a while. Like obviously Breaking News was legal for like 3-4 years before Date and Destiny came out. Process automation is almost build script, and that was in Continental's winning deck. Almost multiple Continentals winning decks. People are playing it. They're playing build script and feeling good about it. And I don't know what to think about them. They seem like nice people. They're probably onto something. It's probably good enough. But like, we have to make fun of them. We've been making fun of them for a long time if they played that. But they've got confident. They said, I'm Sokka. I'm going to play build script. I'm Nichan. I'm going to play build script. And power to them. I'm glad that they're doing that. It's probably fine, honestly. Okay. I'm going to take a wrap here. It's already, shit, it's past midnight. The lights are going to turn off. I'm going to turn back into a horse. Thanks so much for hanging out. Sorry, this is a weird one. We didn't have JNet. That's a thing. I got to wake up early tomorrow, it turns out. So we've already gone way later than I thought we should have. But thanks for hanging out. Hopefully JNet will be back better soon. I want to give a huge thank you. Again, we're supported on Patreon by a lot of folks, including a lot of these names here. We have a bunch of new people who had joined this week. Dan Cranked got the name in, did the edit, got it back in. There's 2 more names here. Jakob coming up. And oh man, did I miss a name? I don't think I did. Frank Jordan. Thanks so much for joining the club. Really appreciate the support. If you want to find out more, again, you can find the link for Patreon below. And it lets me put the time in to edit, to film, to live stream, all this sort of stuff. It takes a lot of time. And I very much appreciate the support. Again, we also have a lot of daily cast patrons. Their names don't appear here, unfortunately, but their support is incredibly appreciated. And yeah, I think that's mostly it. I don't think there's going to be a Thursday stream next week. So we either are going to try and fill that hole with more video content, or we might even stream on a Wednesday night. There's a chance that's what's going to happen. I'll let you know next week on Tuesday. Again, we might see you as soon as tomorrow evening in 24 hours. 24 hours at the APAC Continentals. If you're playing at APAC, if you're watching, if you're judging, if you're getting organized, play stuff happening, you're the best. Wish you the best of luck in all your endeavors there. But we'll be back tomorrow. So sorry. Thanks for hanging out. And we'll be back in just a bit. Sorry about my Issuaq rant. It's fine. Take care, y'all.